Morning, Skippy. Looks like my mic's working. Let me know if my mic's working. Yeah, I like this format too. That's why I be trying to get more and more people to join and join and join because and do the whole notification bell thing because now the algorithm is gonna be different. Usually we have a few hundred people watching at once. But today we're not gonna have that. We're gonna have probably like just a few of us, so that's fine. I'm doing this. We're gonna do these kind of streams here and there because I need to do these kind of streams to get clips. It'll be easier to you know, get clips when we, you know, use this format because then I can just go back and clip things rather than doing a stream for 5 hours, then getting off, then switching computers, then, you know, I'm just gonna dedicate a few days a week to doing lives like this. So let's sign in here. Hold on guys, sorry. Morning, Win. All right, so we're gonna get in this. God, I don't know what I want. I gotta be meticulous on how I cover things today because I want to get good clips, and that's the thing. That's what makes it more um you know it, like if I do good streams Tuesday and Thursday, say I do good streams like this for a few hours, um react to the proper things, stuff like that, then it'll turn into good clips. Therefore, I'm able to just clip it, put it out there. Bada bing, bada boom. So I can start working on getting more money through AdSense too, because I need to start working on all my I need to be all around. I need to be all around more efficient, and doing these kind of streams a few days a week are gonna help. So yeah, so we're gonna get into some of the Candace stuff. Um, Let me know if everything is going good when it comes to audio, video, things like that. If you want me to make my cam smaller,
Oh,
any
right.
any sort of things that may make it look better, let me know and I can change it. For now, I think this looks good. I don't think this looks too bad. So some people have the screen smaller, but I prefer to keep it decent size for you. So I'm pretty sure that's everything I need to put on here. I don't have much else to do. So let's go to here. Hold on. I'm gonna do this quick. Wait 1 second. Yeah, I'm so freaking mad, dude. I went to go look at my invoice from my lawyer because I try and make, obviously, I'm paying off my lawyer still from when I got my kids back. And the interest they're putting on I'm never gonna be able to pay it off. It's never gonna happen. So I don't know what to do. I feel like calling them and saying, how the fuck do you expect anyone to pay this shit off when you put, I had $15,000 to pay off by the end, and now I'm up to 19 grand. What? How does that even work? Uh, So we're gonna get into some of the news here. Then we're gonna get into the Candace stuff. I don't know which one I want to cover first. Probably we'll probably start watching this Christy Gnome video first,
All
kind of
I
see what's
hear
going on
is,
here. Let me know if the sound is good and everything else is good. The mic seems to be working. I want to know if let's see if the desktop is working.
you know, you were better than this body, and you're proving it every day, you and President Trump. You know, the ranking member is entitled to his opinion and to that dialogue berating you and everything the administration's doing. He's just not entitled to his facts. And I'd like to spend my time.
How's it sounding, guys? Everything sounding good? Make sure if you're new to the stream, double tap the screen, show some love and support. Make sure you share the stream, show some love and support when it comes to when I do these type of streams. Like I said, I'm not always going to do these streams, but I'm not always going to do the vertical ones either. Because to be more efficient, it makes more sense just to do a stream like this and then put clips out, you know? And then if there's anything else I want to make a video on more in depth, I could do that. But I'm just trying to be as efficient with my time as I can to get as much AdSense and stuff as I can. I guess I can read it or listen to it as well. To be more efficient, it makes more sense just to do a stream like. Make sure you share the stream, show some love, and double tap.
You know,
Yeah, it seems to be working good. I'm just trying to be as efficient with my time as I can to get as much AdSense. Everything looks good. Everything seems like it's working. So let's see what they're saying to Christina.
concentrating on a few of those. Madam Secretary, were any laws changed significantly between the time of, let's say, President Obama or President Clinton and their enforcement of the border and Joe Biden's 4 years?
No, there wasn't, sir.
And were any laws changed between the time that Joe Biden let 10 million plus people into the country, including the worst of the worst from around the world, and the time that you and President Trump began working?
No, there wasn't.
So it's not about laws. It's not about the calls of things being constitutional.
What do you mean there's no laws that are changed? Isn't the border shut? I mean, I don't think you have to change a law to shut the fucking border, right? By the way, RIP to all the soldiers that have fallen so far from America. I put a clip on the Discord, or not a clip, a picture on the Discord last night of a girl from Minnesota who passed, a soldier from Minnesota. So shout out to all the soldiers. My prayers go out to you guys. It's a very sad situation what's going on right now.
Constitutional. Isn't it true that every president except President Biden spent a lot of time, energy, and public relations letting people know that the border was
Oh, I gotta go let my dogs in real quick. I'll let this play though.
a place to be respected and that we would deport particularly criminals coming to our country?
That is correct.
So regardless of what the ranking member says, all you've really done with gusto, with tenacity, and with all the funds you've been able to have is you've done exactly what President Clinton did or President Obama or any other president who respected the Constitution and the laws we've already passed.
That is correct.
So I want to touch on a personal note, though. You've been to the White House. You've been to the vice president's residencies. Both of those exist as working places, but they exist as places to protect people who, in fact, would be attacked. Is it fair to say that you and your family are at greater risk because of the job you're doing than anyone who's had your job perhaps since 9/11?
Yes, sir, I can't speak specific to the threats, but they
And
are
so
real.
when the ranking member spends so much time talking about your being in a protective housing, by the way, one that is under your authority and one that the head of the Coast Guard normally would be in, I'm just going to make a statement, a view, an opinion, and hopefully the ranking member will agree with this opinion. The chances that the commandant of the Coast Guard is going to be attacked for the job he's doing, and the chance that you will be attacked causes both of you to be in protective housing. You're simply in the housing that he historically had, and I want to thank the administration for recognizing the threat on you and your family for the work you do. Yes.
Let me clarify a couple of things. I'm not in the Commandant's house. I'm in a Coast Guard house, but not the Commandant's house. The Commandant is in his house. And I will also tell you that I rent that facility. I rent where I stay and pay personal dollars to do that.
So I'm hearing the ranking member making statements that aren't true, but they're his opinions. I want to thank you for correcting that. I I apologize for not knowing as the Commandant's residence. I have been in that in the past. And he does use it for both official and unofficial. It's the reason he has it. And the CNO is also housed in an alternative. And by the way, that alternative, just for history, we moved the vice president under Gerald Ford to that residency, and Congress did it and has made the decision that protecting key people and their families so they can do their job is important. And I want to make that point clear today. Now, the ranking member will doubtlessly be the next person, and you will have to put up with 5 minutes and 1 second of berating again. So I want to give you this last 50 seconds to talk just once more about the families behind you, because he implied that he was compassionate for those families, that he understood it. I'm looking at them, and Madam Secretary, I don't see them as being here in support of those 4 years of Joe Biden and the ranking member's administration.
No, and it's interesting because when President Trump was here in his last term, he opened up an office at ICE to help these families, to give them information.
How's the volume? Do I need to fix it? For right now, it shows everything's going up good. I mean, it shows I have this up to it's going into the yellow, so it should be just fine. I'll turn it up a little bit more here. Let me know how it here, hold on. I don't want to overdo my voice, but here, I'll turn it up a bit more. Let me know how this is.
Information on support, mental health
It also could be the volume on the Fox channel too.
account
So hold
that
on.
they might need, or also knowledge on court cases of the individuals who had killed their children. And when Joe Biden came into office, he closed down that Voices office, completely shuttered it, because that office also tracked how many victims there really were in the country that had been affected by illegal alien crime. So when I came in, I didn't have any data set to use because Joe Biden and his administration had completely quit keeping track of the amount of victims here. We're grateful that they're here today. We're grateful that the Voices office is back open again, and that these families now can know where their children's killers are. They can follow that, and they can make sure that they hold people
Yeah, it sounds good on my stuff, so just let me know.
accountable to not enforcing the law.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from New York.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Noam, we have seen a consistent pattern of lies and deceit from the Department of Homeland Security under your leadership. I'm not just talking about the false claims that you and others at DHS have spread in attempting to smear Alex Preddy, Renee Good, and other victims of ICE's deadly tactics, all of which are well known. I'm talking about the dishonesty and deception that has become commonplace throughout your agency. One of the most brazen incidents occurred last week at Columbia University, where 5 DHS agents conned their way into a university-owned apartment building at 6 a.m. They were pretending to be police officers searching for a missing child, but this was nothing more than a ruse to gain access to the apartment of a student originally from Azerbaijan, Eli Agayeva, a senior studying neuroscience and politics. A public security officer on the scene asked for a warrant, but none was produced, and they proceeded to arrest Eli. It is black-letter law that a government agent cannot lie about searching for a missing child to gain entry to a residence. It's literally the example they give in the criminal procedure textbook. But your agents deliberately misrepresented themselves to gain access to Eli's apartment. Fortunately, hours after Eli was taken into custody, following a public outcry and a meeting with Mayor Mamdani, President Trump intervened and secured her release. If Eli had been among the worst of the worst that you claim to target, surely the president would not have pushed for her release. But this is just one example of an out-of-control department under your leadership. My own office was the victim of your agents' deceptive tactics last year, when DHS agents entered my office under false pretenses, claiming that my staff was, quote, harboring rioters, when video clearly showed this was not the case. A statement issued by DHS claimed the agents were doing a, quote, security check, and yet the video that has been released shows them handcuffing a staffer, demanding access to non-public areas of my office without a warrant, denying that they even needed a warrant when challenged by a member of my staff, and never once asking about the safety and security of my staff. More lies. Although both of these incidents were traumatic for those involved, at least everyone is alive and well. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for Nurul Amin Shah Alam, an elderly, nearly blind refugee from Burma living in Buffalo. 2 weeks ago, he was left abandoned by U.S. Customs and Border Patrol agents outside a Tim Hortons coffee shop an hour after they closed, in the cold and in the dark, with no shoes on, miles away from his home. 5 days later, he was found dead. Mr. Shah Alam escaped a genocide in his home country just to die here because Border Patrol could not be bothered to take him home or to tell his family where they had released him.
That's very fucked up.
When the story came out in the press, DHS claimed that they had dropped Mr. Shah Alam at a, quote, warm, safe location near his last known address. Your agents also claimed Mr. Shah Alam showed, quote, no signs of distress, mobility issues, or disabilities requiring special assistance. These were obvious lies. The coffee shop was closed. It wasn't safe and warm. He was nearly blind. He required special assistance. But your agents callously left him to defend for himself with deadly consequences. This is a clear case of
So what? They just dropped him off in a random location? Like, I don't. That's crazy.
your officers failing to fulfill the basic duty of care. And as a result, this man is dead. So, Secretary Noem, I want to know if there will be any accountability for the incidents I have described today. Will the agents who lied at Columbia face discipline, or the officers who forced their way into my office? What about the officers in Buffalo who abandoned a barefoot blind refugee in the middle of a freezing night miles away from his home? Will any of them face accountability?
Well, sir, you talk about several different specific cases. What I would say is some of your facts are wrong on some of those cases, but also that they are all being reviewed. We do have a review process in the ICE agency within that department
like
that goes through and does an OPR, which is the Office of Professional Responsibility, makes sure that all protocols were followed in every single case. In the case of the Columbia student.
We know, reclaiming my
I was just gonna say reclaim your time if you want to talk, bro. Otherwise, just let her fucking answer.
time, we know that in the cases of Renee Good and Alex Preddy, proper protocols were not followed. Now, Erie County is currently mounting an investigation. Will you at the very least commit today that DHS will cooperate with the investigation by local authorities in New York of Mr. Shah Alam's death? Yes or no?
Which case are you talking about, sir?
Shah Alam, the one who was
We will
released.
certainly look at that, but I want you to know that the investigations...
Will you cooperate with the local authorities? Yes or no?
I don't conduct the investigations that are outside of within the umbrella of ICE and CBC.
I'll take that as a no.
The FBI leads
I'll
these
take that as a no.
investigations.
Unfortunately, that has become a pattern we've come to expect in this administration. Secretary Noem, your agents are running amok, and you're doing nothing to hold them accountable. Everything that we are seeing, the
Mr.
lies,
Chairman, regular order.
deaths, the cruelty, that is all happening on your watch and in your name. You should be ashamed. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from California, Mr. McClintock, Chairman of the Subcommittee on Immigration, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You can't. Well, I'll check one more time, but this is the last time I can check because when I checked on my computer, I'm listening to it simultaneously. It sounds good. I'll turn me up a little bit more. I don't know. I'm getting into the yellow now, so hopefully that's better for you.
Chairman, I know we have a number of Angel families here today whose loved ones were killed because of the open borders policies of the Democrats. Could I ask them to stand for a moment and be recognized so that we can honor their loved ones and get a sense of the human toll that 4 years of open borders took on our country?
Thank you.
God bless you all.
Yep.
Thank you. Madam
At least she turned around, unlike Pam Bondi when it came to the Epstein file or the Epstein victims. Pam Bondi didn't even turn around. So,
Secretary, the Democrats told us that the only way to secure our borders was we had to grant amnesty and citizenship to the millions of illegals that they had allowed into our country. Was this true?
No,
And how do we know it wasn't true?
because we enforced the law and sent the message that in the United States now our border was going to be secure, and we would ensure that, and it happened. People quit coming. They quit coming to that border because we told them it was closed, and we made sure that when people did cross the border that there was consequences for breaking federal law.
During the Biden years, approximately how many foreign nationals illegally entered our country, either as gotaways or through the CB1 app or the catch and release policies of Biden?
We don't necessarily know, Congressman. We don't necessarily know because
I just can't understand what kind of president in their right mind would create a catch and release policy for illegal immigrants. Like, no country would do that. Like, for national security purposes and for just safety purposes in general for anyone. Why would you do that? They're not vetted. That's exactly how sleeper cells get in your country. And that's exactly why everybody's worried about sleeper cells right now when it comes to Iran or anywhere else. It's just I can't believe it. That just sounds silly to me.
the invasion was facilitated by the federal government during that time. And while all of our CBP agents were pulled to process people, to make sandwiches, to take care of the masses and thousands of people crossing the border, huge swaths of our border were left unsecured.
So
And the
we don't
cartels
know.
took advantage of that to
We
traffic.
don't know how many
do not
millions
know.
of illegals. We know at least 10 million because we watched them either cross the border or we released them under the Biden administration. But the Inspector General reported that they also approved entry visas for 13 million foreign nationals without conducting any interviews or background checks as required by law. Do we know anything about those 13 million visa approvals that were given without any kind of vetting?
We don't. We're going back and tracking ones we have documentation on, but most of them are not at the addresses that they left, the contacts that they may have done. And all of our programs under the Department of Homeland Security were violated and abused and perverted as well. For example, when we came in, there was 400,000 asylum cases. That was a year before we came in. He abused it so bad during that invasion that when I first got sworn in as secretary, there was a backlog of 1.5 million asylum cases.
And do
that
we
all
know,
need to be reviewed.
do we know how many are still even in the country?
No, we don't.
How many criminals were allowed in?
Oh, thousands of them. We know for a fact that other countries emptied out their prisons, their mental institutions, encouraged people to go, and those individuals who would pay a cartel member to move them across the country certainly came into our country, broke that first law, which made them a criminal, and then after that, many times.
And could you tell us again just how many illegal aliens have been deported under your leadership or have been self-deported?
There's been over 700,000 that have been detained and arrested and are being deported. I want to remind everybody at this committee too that every single one of these individuals that's detained has final orders of removal. They can leave today.
And by the way,
as soon as they get to that detention center,
how
they
many
have
of
the option
those
to go home.
that you've deported now have records of a criminal or arrests or convictions?
70% of those in our detention centers have criminal records.
So roughly over 500,000.
Yes.
So you've effectively removed more than 500,000 criminal illegal aliens from our streets and sent them back to their own countries or detained them.
Yes.
And what's that done to our crime rate?
Oh, our crime rate has been phenomenal. In fact, we have the lowest murder rate in our country that we've had since it's been recorded. Over 125 years, our murder rates are at the lowest that it is. The drug epidemic is getting better and improving. We need it to do more so we don't lose more of our children. But we specifically under ICE as well and HSI target human traffickers and child pedophiles and those that would perpetuate assaults against our children.
The chairman said there were 11 states refusing to enforce federal immigration law. I think it's worth noting there were also 11 states in the old Confederacy. And they, too, asserted the doctrine of nullification, that states could ignore or nullify federal laws that they didn't like. That's fatal to a federal republic like ours. Abraham Lincoln understood that. Andrew Jackson understood that. Donald Trump understands that. It's what lit the fuse for the Civil War. How do these sanctuary states thwart enforcement of our federal immigration laws?
They don't cooperate with us. They don't share background information or arrest information or when they're releasing someone from their prisons or jails. They turn them on the streets, and then when we are out doing enforcement actions, they don't help us with security. Many of these local officials, driven by political leaders, governors or mayors, don't come when we respond, when we ask for backup for our law enforcement as well.
And what's the purpose of these so-called sanctuary cities and states? Are they protecting all illegal aliens or only those illegal aliens that have been arrested for other crimes?
Well, I would say they're protecting them all. They're allowing them to stay on their programs and to live in their housing and facilitate it and to be on benefits programs that take taxpayer dollars out of their.
See, and I just think that that's crazy. And one thing I was going to say, I just have been letting this play because it's pretty interesting to hear them speak about this stuff. And 500,000 criminals is a shit ton. And apparently, what you heard, what they just said, Our crime rate is lower than when it was first ever recorded 125 years ago. But what I must say is that there's a clear division in the questioning here where, the previous man was just asking about like three people: Alex Preddy, Renee Good, and the other person who also got left in the cold. They all unfortunately lost their lives due to this, invasion and the effort to get them taken out and deported. 500,000 people is a lot of people. Donald Trump said there was 5 or 25 million people who came in, right? We don't know the number, but when you have to run an operation of this scale to get these people out of this country that were let in here unvetted, that could be sleeper cells, that at any moment could be planning to do something that's harmful to our country when it comes to, terrorist attacks or anything else. A few people that passed away, yes, they might be, and this is a hot take, and yes, they're the United States citizens, and it shouldn't have happened. But for 500,000 people to be taken out of this country and more that we're working on, for there only to be a few incidents like that are isolated incidents, that's pretty good. You know, it's not like agents are just running around everywhere, just blasting people. Should Renee Good have lost her life? No. Should have Alex Preddy lost his life? No. I think that excuse me, I think that especially the Alex Preddy case was unjustified. I watched the video over and over and over. Unjustified. Should Alex Preddy have went up to and escalated the situation when he had two full magazines on him, plus a magazine in his firearm and a round in a chamber? No, he should not have done that. That is stupid. When you take concealed carry permit class, they teach you don't even get involved in stuff like that. You remove yourself from the situation, right? Renee Good. I truly think that was unjustified too because I watched a cop put his hand with his weapon in the window and shoot two more times. Um, that's just my opinion. I think there's ways to handle things, and that cop also should not have been out on the field because he previously just went through a traumatic experience and had to get like 40 something staples on his leg because he was dragged by a car previously. But for that many people to be left in our country or brought into our country, and for us to be trying to get them out at the rate we are, I think that a few isolated incidents like that, you know, there's only like what three families that are representing their loved ones here. I mean, we're lucky it's not 20, right? That's just what I have to say about that. Um, Again, no, they didn't deserve to lose their lives, but I mean, dude, you got to imagine how these people are thinking. You know, I was watching a Sean Ryan clip the other day. I don't want to ramble too much, but this girl, I can't remember her name, but they do a show now together, and she was talking about how sleeper cells are in the United States and how Islam is preparing to attack us and blah 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 blah. And it's like the scary part is you don't know how many of these sleeper cells get into the United States, and then they get together and they plan, or they start building bombs, or they start doing this, or they start doing that, and it's scary to think about. So at the same time as I think that there could be better actions being done from these people, I really do appreciate the work they're doing when it comes to trying to get these people out of the country.
Communities away from American citizens and facilitate a way of life for people that didn't follow our legal process. I know that they're very concerned, the Democrat Party is very concerned about illegal aliens in this country. I will tell you, as a Secretary of Homeland Security, it's my job to get up every day to be concerned for American citizens.
Well,
They are my priority.
Thank you for the job you're doing.
Gentleman yields back. Mr. Coleman, I should have said this earlier. If you need any help or a little break, when you want to go in the back room with Delilah, that's fine. I see Delilah decided to take a nap. Let the record show, I think she fell asleep during Mr. Nadler's question, not Mr. McClintock. The chair now recognizes the gentlelady from California.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And
Yeah, after I seen Sean Ryan interview Brian Harple, I don't really listen to him anymore. But you never know. There still might be valid people that go on there with valid, information. So you never want to disregard too much information at
thank
once.
you, Secretary, for being here with us this morning. There's an old adage that states there are no bad dogs, just bad owners. And one of the questions we have is, Are there bad agencies or just bad owners and bad leadership? And so, you know, I have a concern about much of what's happened in the enforcement region internally in the United States. And I'd like to show a video, the video number 1, if the staff could play that. Now, this was in January. ICE agents forced their way into the home of a United States citizen, Mr. Scott Thao, without a warrant. As you could see from the video, they pulled him into sub-freezing temperatures in his underwear, held him for a number of hours, and finally released him. You know, the Fourth Amendment says the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and provides for a warrant requirement to enter a person's home. Now, that was bad leadership in my judgment, because, and not in your part, the Attorney General has issued a memorandum asserting, I think incorrectly, I mean obviously incorrectly, that no warrant is required to break into somebody's house, contrary to what the Fourth Amendment provides, and that an administrative warrant, which is basically note to self, go ahead and break into anybody's house you want, is what's sufficient. So my question really is not about the illegal breaking and entering into that U.S. citizen's house, but what is the policy about taking an old man in his underwear out of a house in sub-freezing temperatures? Do you train agents not to do that, or are they trained to do that?
All of our law enforcement officers go through extensive training. Our ICE officers go through 58 days of training and 56 days of training. They have 28 of those on the job.
Okay,
But
so-
beyond that, they are trained in constitutional law, which you referenced, so they all know.
The question was about manhandling an old man in sub-freezing weather. So they're trained to do that?
They're trained in how to interdict someone, to detain them, and to take them.
Well, this man had done nothing wrong. Let me show you another video. Show another video. So this disabled woman, she's a U.S. citizen, Miss Raymond, she wasn't protesting anything. She was on her way to a doctor's appointment. She has a traumatic brain injury, and as you can see from the video, your agents surrounded her car, they pointed their weapons at her, they broke her window, and they dragged her from the car. Let me show you another video.
Oh, what? Y'all some crazy. Y'all got no heart, for real. No heart. No heart.
Now, in this video, masked agents blocked the road with their SUV and used it to hit an American.
I'm gonna have to switch webcams in a second because the freaking charger for this PC is fucked. I should just use my other computer, but it is what it is, dude. Honestly.
American citizen driving in the right lane on her way to work after dropping off her child. As you can see, they drew their weapons, they drug her into the street to arrest her. She didn't know they were federal law enforcement because they were wearing masks. So the question I have is, are agents trained to break the windows of people whose cars they encounter and drag them out forcibly without asking questions? Is that their training?
Congresswoman, our officers are all trained for situations to where they're interacting with the public and where they are detaining someone or arresting them. What I would say is they always goes with their presence is when the enforcement action begins, the officer's presence, and then verbal commands. If an individual doesn't respond to verbal commands, then they go to soft techniques, which you see utilized throughout the country, and our officers follow that protocol and are trained in that protocol. You talked earlier about administrative warrants. Administrative warrants are the tools that you gave us. Congress gave us that tool in immigration law to use to go and detain individuals who are in this country that have had final removal orders.
I will just
And
note
also what
that is garbage law. The Constitution
the Supreme
trumps.
Court backed it up. The
You're
Supreme Court
incorrect.
affirmed it.
There's a long line of cases,
the only
Mr.
tool we have,
Chairman.
ma'am,
The
and we've
real
only-
lawyers
Well,
on this
I don't know if it's-
committee know that the Fourth
describe it
Amendment
how you want, but
provides for
but
a
it is the
warrant
law.
requirement.
It is federal law. The gentlelady's time has expired. The chair is now recognized.
Mr. Chairman, could I just do a UC request?
Gentleman is recognized for unanimous consent.
This comes from The Guardian. Worst of the worst, most U.S. immigrants targeted for deportation in 2025, 73% had no criminal charges, documents reveal.
Without objection, the chair is now recognized. Madam Secretary, how many detainers in 2025 did ICE issue to local law enforcement?
It was 201,340.
And I just want to be clear, that means over 200,000 individuals are in the country illegally. You have a notice, final order to remove those individuals. They've been charged with an additional crime, some other crime, harming kids, stealing stuff, armed robbery, maybe even something worse. They're in a jail or detention center, and you send a notice, a detainer notice to that jail or detention center saying, if you're going to release this individual, give us a heads up so we can come apprehend him at the jail. Is that all accurate?
That is accurate, yes.
Okay. Now, and in 68.5% of the country will work with you on that. Most of the country, 2/3 of the country. But a third of the country won't because they're run by left-wing crazy elected officials. And they say, no, we're not gonna work with ICE. So how many times in the same time period, how many times last year, 2025, were your detainers not honored?
17,864 detainers were declined.
Declined. And now some of them, they may have declined early, but many of those people are out on the street.
Right.
Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
So in these jurisdictions, they say, we don't care that federal law says there's a final order of removal for this individual, and we don't care that this person's been charged with an additional crime. We're going to turn them out on the street, release this individual out on the street, and make you send 6 agents, 12 agents, whatever, to get the bad guy on the street when you could have sent one to the jail and just made it easy. Is that right?
That is correct.
And let me just ask this, is that the dumbest thing you've ever heard?
It is the dumb, well, I've heard a lot of dumb things
Well,
in this job, but
I've heard a
that
lot of
is
dumb
one
things from the
them,
left
yes.
as well, but that is certainly near the top, right? Now, here's what's interesting. They don't want it just to remain 1/3 of the country. They want it to apply everywhere. And you know how we know that? 1 month ago today, Leader Hakeem Jeffries and Leader Schumer sent a letter to Speaker Johnson and Leader Thune. And in that letter, they have 10 demands that they want. That's why they shut down the government, they're saying. One of the reasons they shut down the government is they want that policy, which only applies to 31% of the country right now, to apply nationwide. And I just want to read it, because it's point number 4 in their letter 1 month ago. Protect sensitive locations, prohibit funds from being used to conduct enforcement near these sensitive locations. So after they release them, they don't want you to be able to arrest the guy who may have been charged with abusing kids, the detainer wasn't honored, who's released to the street. They don't want you to arrest him near medical facilities, schools, child care facilities. So if he's hanging out near a child care facility, he's been charged with abusing kids and he's here illegally, or a school, you're not supposed to get him there, according to what Leader Jeffries and Leader Schumer said. And I'll ask you the same question. Is that the dumbest thing you've ever heard?
Yes, that is one way to encourage criminals to congregate where children are, is to say that a school would be a safe zone.
And what happens when they don't honor detainers? They release bad guys who were supposed to, according to federal law, be turned over to ICE, and you're supposed to remove them. They release them. What happens is exactly what I talked about in our opening statement. You have guys like this Ortiz fellow, right next door in Fairfax County, Virginia, who was here illegally. You all sent a detainer, and they said last September, nope, we're not going to honor it. They released him to the streets, and he killed someone when it could have been easy. Someone would still be alive today. And as I said before,
And those leaders should be held accountable. all those leaders. Anyone who doesn't follow that should be held accountable if someone dies like that. It should be on their hands. It's blood on their hands.
Be one less angel
We're gonna listen to a couple more minutes of this, then I'm gonna get off it.
family in this country if they would simply do the common sense thing. But no, they want to expand it, and they want to put back in this protected areas thing. Here's the other thing that's interesting. They all defend what happened in Minneapolis when all the protesters and rioters, or whatever you want to call them, went into the church. So they're allowed to go into the church, and somehow that's fine. They can disrupt the church service, but you're not allowed to go at or near a church to arrest a bad guy who's been charged with another crime and released to the street. Again, unbelievably stupid. And that is why tomorrow, the House Judiciary Committee is going to mark up the Sanctuary Shutdown Act of 2026. And hopefully, we can pass that, get it to the Senate, pass it, and get President Trump to sign it, because it is the right thing to do. And anyone with common sense understands that. I apologize, I went too long. I'll give you the last 20 seconds.
No, I just appreciate that, and I agree with you wholeheartedly that a lot of what comes at us for criticisms is simply not truth. Every day, and it's interesting, Chairman, as you were talking, I was thinking about the last committee hearing I was at just a couple of months ago in December, that all the Democrats held up pictures of illegal aliens and were defending illegal aliens and talked about them. Now today, they're defending citizens because they know they shouldn't be putting illegal aliens in front of citizens. They've changed their method. Now they realize that when they're fighting for people who shouldn't be in this country to begin with, that's a losing statement with the American people, that common sense would tell you somebody who lives here that is a citizen should be prioritized over someone from another country.
But
that's common
Madam
sense.
Secretary, they're not only fighting for people here illegally, they're releasing the bad guys to the streets, for goodness sake.
They are.
That is the problem. With that, I now recognize the ranking member for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're fighting for American citizens, Madam Secretary.
Today
because,
you are.
because your ICE agents shot them in the face and killed them, and each person you see up on this dais today represents 800,000 American citizens. And you should know that as a former member of Congress. Now, her brother said that Renee Good was someone who could make you believe things were going to be okay despite all the hardship because she chose optimism. Alex Preddy was a Boy Scout, a choir member, an outdoorsman from Green Bay who lavished attention on his beloved dog, Jewel. His sister called her brother someone who had a way of lighting up every room that he walked into. But only a few hours after they were gunned down by your agents, you called Renee a domestic terrorist.
Yeah, that was crazy. When I seen that, I was just like, wow.
You said Alex committed an act of domestic terrorism. Alex's parents responded to your calling their son a domestic terrorist. They said, the sickening lies told about our son by the administration are reprehensible and disgusting. And I want to give you a chance before the entire country to correct your false and defamatory claim. Based on what you know today, Madam Secretary, were Renee Good and Alex Preddy domestic terrorists?
Congressman, what happened in Minnesota in those two incidents was an absolute tragedy.
Were
And I
they
offer my
domestic terrorists, as you said to the
My
country?
condolences to their families, because I know that their lives will never be the same after that happened.
Is that an apology
And I
for what
was-
you said?
We, in those incidents, offer as much information as we can from officers and agents on the ground in a chaotic scene that gets
I'll repeat
relayed
my question,
to
reclaiming
us
my
so that
time.
we can
Based on
communicate
what
with the
you
American
know
people.
today, Madam Secretary, based on what you know today, were Renee Good and Alex Preddy domestic terrorists?
As you know, there's ongoing investigations that are being led by the FBI.
Oh, but you didn't wait for the
and there's-
investigation, did you? You didn't wait for the evidence. You proclaimed that they were domestic terrorists at the time. Why did you do that?
And you didn't wait to attack our law enforcement.
Why did you do
officers
that?
for going into a dangerous situation.
Why did you call them
One thing I
domestic
would say
terrorists?
Is our ICE officers and our HSI officers that day risked their lives to protect that scene, so evidence could be reclaimed, so it could be used in the investigation. Because those violent rioters that were
So you're
there
proud of the fact
would
that
have-
you called them domestic terrorists? Is that
those
what you're telling
individuals,
America?
HSI officers put their lives on the line to protect that scene, so evidence, so we could have.
Yes, they do.
thorough
Yes,
and
they do. But you
accurate
told a lie
investigation.
about them. You said that they were domestic terrorists. Do you regret that?
I offer my condolences to those family, and again,
Based
I don't know why it's so hard to just sit there and say like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have called him that. Like, are you just giving a whole new line drawn in the sand about what a terrorist is? Seriously? I mean, seriously, people, these officers and these agents are in a very high intense situation when you have people throwing stuff at them and they're surrounded and it's all crazy. But I just I think it's a stretch to call these two people terrorists. That's just my opinion.
On what
We'll
you
tell
know
them that
today,
the
were Renee
chaotic scene
Good
on
and
the
Alex
ground,
Preddy domestic terrorists?
there's ongoing investigations, and so I
So
cannot.
you still don't know? You think that's an open question?
I would think you would want there to still be investigations going into these situations.
Well, you
and we'll
stated the
continue to work on
conclusion
that.
2 hours after they were killed that they were domestic terrorists. I wanted to give you an opportunity to correct the record, not just for their family, but for everybody in America who believes in the truth and fairness and honesty.
In every situation, as facts come out, we relay
You know,
them and
your acting
communicate
ICE
them to the
director,
family.
Todd Lyons, came before Congress. He said he had no knowledge whatsoever that Alex Preddy and Renee Good were domestic terrorists. None. This is your guy. He said that. He admitted that that was wrong. Why won't you admit it?
I will tell you the investigation's still ongoing, and we'll.
So do you regret speaking before the investigation?
I would say that in those situations.
You regret
the
that?
chaotic scene on the ground, we relay information to the American people that they're asking for. And as the things change, situations change.
People
we
were
continue
asking
to
you whether they were
communicate that
domestic
as well.
terrorists?
We
And you
continue to
decided that they
communicate
were
to-
before the investigation?
As we learn more, we.
You don't want to say anything to their families?
I did. I said condolences.
For what?
And I'm
How about an
heartsick for their
apology for what you said about their loved
My
ones?
heart is with them, and we will continue to stand with them as they get a complete investigation into these situations.
All right. Well, let me ask you some questions of law if you can't handle the facts. Very simple questions of law, not trick questions. Is it lawful for federal agents to shoot and kill a person for engaging in peaceful protest and nothing else? That's a yes or
I would
no
say
question.
Each instances in peaceful protests, no, it's not.
Okay,
But I
good.
would say
Is it
if-
lawful for federal agents to shoot and kill a person for filming them on a public street? Yes or no?
No.
Okay. Is it lawful for federal agents to shoot and kill
Aquaman, make sure you like the stream. I appreciate you. Good morning.
a person just because that person is lawfully carrying a holstered firearm under the Second Amendment in state law?
No.
And finally, yes or no, is it lawful for federal agents to shoot an innocent person or even a criminal suspect just for driving away from them, according to the Supreme Court?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you got the law right, and I hope you would rethink what you said about two good, honest, faithful American citizens and what that means to their families when you say that as Secretary of Homeland Security. And your ICE guy has already retracted that, and you should retract it too. I yield back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Arizona is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Secretary Noem, for being here today. Also, I want to acknowledge the Angel families. There are very few jurisdictions that don't have Angel families. Very, very few. Thank you for your courage and your willingness to be here today. I am grateful that the ranking member at least knows, Secretary Noem, that under your jurisdiction, there's the Coast Guard, there's FEMA, and a whole host of other agencies, TSA being one. He listed some of them. He's chosen not to fund them. How outrageous is that? How outrageous. So, Secretary Noem, before I turn to my questions, I want to establish the insanity of what sanctuary jurisdictions are doing and why it matters. And by the way, I'll just say, Mr. Chairman, on the CDL issue, I have a bill 7200. I'd love to bring that in because it would require states do e-verify before they grant a CDL. We might save some more lives. Let's start with the ICE immigration detainers. From October 2022 through February 2025, state and local jails declined more than 25,000 ICE detainers.
Okay, we already listened to this. I'm not listening to it again. Yeah, it's just to me, it's just crazy. I'm sorry. Yeah, what Alex Preddy did and what Renee Good did, they shouldn't have done that. But in the situation happened that my condolences go out to their families. But the whole domestic terrorist thing, no. Okay, like a domestic terrorist is like the guy who went and shot those two National Guard people in Washington, right? Like, come on, dude. I just don't think that calling them a domestic terrorist is right. you know. Um, yeah. Politics, no wonder why people get gray hair, right? All right, so I just want to go over a little bit of the, we're trying to keep up on the Bride of Charlie situation. Still couldn't figure out where the clip was that she said that she was going to have Charlie Kirk's mom on, so I might have to change my previous title. But maybe she'll say something in this stream. We'll see. We're going to speed it up a little bit. We're just going to try and get through the meat and potatoes of the situation. And yeah, so everybody go sub up to Candace if you haven't already, and show some love and support.
Ladies and gentlemen, the players are now in place. You know who the cast of characters are. It is definitely time for us to begin pulling it all together for you on a neat timeline. Erica's missing years. Where is she? Is she in Eastern Europe? Why was she ever in Eastern Europe? Also, is it possible that Lori, her mom, was in Afghanistan? Is Lori actually a direct descendant of Vince Lombardi? I actually think she is. Also, we've got Tyler Boyer out in Romania now, too. What exactly goes on in Romania? What goes on in Eastern Europe? What is everybody doing there? We have a lot to unpack today, so let's jump right in. Welcome back to Bride of Charlie. We have learned is backed financially by the Bush family, the Walton family, a model that's been designed by psychologists alongside Dr. Franz Baystein. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Or maybe a better question is, what could possibly go right with this cast of characters? Now, I had alluded to you that Dr. Jerry conducts a lot of research. They had to give her own research center, gender center for the Beehive, by the way, under the guise of exploring issues related to feminism and gender studies. Jerry Franzway travels. She travels abroad a lot. In particular, she travels to Eastern Europe. She did this with a team to research gender issues in 1990. Take a look at this. Wow. According to Franzway, the final big project of the semester.
Gender issues. I don't understand. Yeah, we're about to get into the wacky stuff, man. I don't get what gender issues are. Like, whoever thought to make this a thing, to research gender issues? Were there gender issues 100, 200 years ago? In biblical times, were there gender issues? I mean, it's just an honest question. Maybe there were, I don't know.
This is at Radford, will be taking a group of students to Eastern Europe. We will research the expectations of men and women as work life and day-to-day life change after the wall came down. Really? Imagine your kid goes to this school and the teacher's going, we're gonna go in 1990 to Eastern Europe after the wall came down, the fall of the Berlin Wall. You're just gonna jump right in there. Do you understand what happened after that? Chaos. That's what happened. Chaos and carnage. Again, why would you take students there to research gender issues? Do we think that gender issues are ranking high in the minds of those Eastern Europeans? Now, for clarity, as soon as the Berlin Wall fell, the intra-Eastern European wars began, right? The Yugoslav wars, bloody, brutal. That began same year, August of 1990, when Franzway is going out there. Dr. Franzway is going out there. So I have to ask myself, what is she actually doing? Let me enter this into the conversation. Are you guys aware of how many children go missing during times of war? During all that chaos, how many kids are trafficked during the fog of war? Now, I know this because one of my best friends in college was Romanian. She grew up with real gypsies grabbing children off the street. She would tell me a story about how she was almost trafficked when she was a child. And it makes you wonder, where exactly, when they are taking these children, where exactly are they taking these children to? How could that go unnoticed? Now, I still will feel this way about Dr. Franzway. I will state this unequivocally. I don't think Dr. Jerry Franzway, who is a verifiable fraud, was there in Eastern Europe researching gender issues. May she rest in peace. But that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. Now, I should also mention that Tesseract had a principal, she would actually climb a ladder at Tesseract while Erica was a student, who had very strong military ties, a woman named Nancy Gerard Hall, she will become. Nancy was a military brat. Her father was Colonel Paul Tracy Gerard, who was a member of the Scottish Rite. A lot of that going on, a lot of Freemasonry going on at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, out in Kansas. He was a part of the Blue Lodge, Blue Masonic Lodge in Galesburg, Illinois as well. He was also the chief military law enforcement officer at the 7th Army in Europe. That's in Germany, Stuttgart, Germany in the 1950s. Look, maybe he knows where Jean-Michel Trogneau went. Maybe they crossed paths. I don't know. The point is, That's not the only military tie. Nancy's brother, Paul Tracy Gerard Jr., would follow in his father's footsteps. He was a major in the military in 1977, and I'm sure he continued climbing the ranks after that because he was also a member of a military honor society known as Scabbard and Blade. But that's not it. Also, her first husband, Stephen Edward Sample, he comes from a long line of military men himself. He was a second lieutenant in the Air Force when they married. So that's Nancy. She's in charge of the curriculum and much more over at Tesseract. Now, I think it's fair to wonder, to speculate, whether or not she approached that job with military precision. Anyway, let's jump back into our Erica Kirk timeline so we can look at all of this cleanly. Okay, let's start at 1988. We know Erica is born on either November 20th or November 22nd, depending on who's telling the story. Who's the clerk? We don't.
The fact that her birthday is even up for debate is crazy to me. The fact that there's just, court documents that were supposed to be notarized that weren't notarized at all, that are just scanned in and all this other stuff is just bonkers to me.
No. In 1990, Dr. Jerry Franzfey, and I want to mention this about Dr. Jerry Franzfey, I don't know if she is still married to Kent because we can't find marriage records between Lori and Kent, but we also could not locate divorce records between Dr. Jerry Franzfey and Kent. So I'm just going to put that out there. But what we do know is 1990, she's going to start conducting research in Eastern Europe. 1991, we've already shown you this. Erica will attend a private daycare. That's at the Walnut Corner in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is in a corporate business building that's owned by Child Care Visions. We have that photo for you, which was taken Halloween 1991. Erica is on the brink of her third birthday. In 1994, Erica is attending St. Ursula Villa for kindergarten. That's, again, 94 to 95. In 1995, Erica is attending the Tesseract School down in Paradise Valley. That's going to be from her 1995 to 1996 school year. And her parents, Kent and Lori, allegedly get married that year in Marblehead, Massachusetts, although we cannot find a single shred of documentation that verifies that. Does it mean it doesn't exist? It just means that we haven't come across it, and neither have any of our sleuths. And our sleuths are usually pretty good at that. 96, she is still at the Tesseract School. 98, she is also at the Tesseract School. That's the 98 to 99 school year. Erica is in the third grade. And this is when Lori and Kent will file for divorce in Cincinnati. We'll note that Kent is living already in Arizona, and Lori is listed as living in Cincinnati, at least if their divorce docs are to be believed. Now, we should discuss 1999, okay? Because I was sort of under the impression, I had indicated to you guys that Erica might have been enrolled at St. Ursula Villa back up in Ohio from 1999 to 2002. But we stand corrected on that. That's not accurate. People who attended during those years up in Ohio at St. Ursula Villa, they emailed us, they went through their yearbooks, and they said that she is not featured in those yearbooks. So we don't have Erica from 2000 until 2002. Now, it's possible that she went to a different nearby school in Scottsdale. So I'm going to put it out again, a little APB here. If you went to school with Erica Franzfey anywhere in the United States from the years 2000 to 2002, we would like to hear from you. Okay, we'd like to hear from you. Now, what we can confirm, and this is where it gets pretty interesting, is that around this time, you will recall American men and women are being shipped out to Afghanistan. Nobody really knows why, but Operation Enduring Freedom is going to begin. Don't ask me how or why. If Saudis allegedly drove planes into the World Trade Center, why are we immediately a couple of weeks later on October 7th, 2001, sending people to Afghanistan? It's very confusing. None of it makes any sense. Don't try to understand corruption. It's very dizzying. But that's what happens. Operation Enduring Freedom begins. And we should note that Erica's mother, her company, E3 Tech, is going to be used for this operation. That's according to its current website. Okay. E3 Tech has a website, and on its website, it tells us that they participated in Operation Enduring Freedom. And not only that, because don't forget, like, Lori at some point falls and bumps her head, and she's Steve Jobs. She's Nikola Tesla. I don't know. She's just a tech genius. She is even going to eventually win an award for her contributions to Operation Enduring Freedom.
I just don't get how Erica Kirk's mom was picked to do this kind of stuff. Like, I don't get where it came from for her to be in telecommunications and all of a sudden go to Arizona and get a government contract. It's just crazy to me. I mean, what kind of communications would she help with in fucking Iraq and Afghanistan?
Did Erica go overseas with her mother during those years? Maybe in 2001. I don't even know if Lori went overseas during those years. I'm just telling you that according to their own website, E3 Tech, they received an award for whatever they were doing for that operation. We'll leave that open-ended because we truly do not know. Okay, so let's get back into our timeline. Let's take a look at 1999. Again, we don't know where Erica is for that school year, but that's going to be the year that Lori files a lot of different companies, corporations. December 1st, 1999, with the help of Rick and Donna Erpenbeck, she forms Virtual Registration International Incorporated, again indicating that she's going to be doing some work overseas. She also forms Intelemet, the Incorporated, on September 24th. Lori Franzwey also is going to form Intelemet International Incorporated of Delaware on December 2nd of that year. Okay, she's getting ready to do business. Go to the year 2000, Tesseract School goes bankrupt. Millions are apparently missing. You don't know where Erica is that year, but you can see for-profit corporate drive to run public schools. It's gone. It just has a full-blown meltdown, and that ends that. In 2001, as I mentioned to you, we got 9/11, we have Operation Enduring Freedom, and Lori's E3 Tech company is going to be used for that operation. 2002, we have no idea which school Erica went to. We'd like to find out. In 2003, Lori Franzwey forms another Intelemet company. This one is Intelemet of Arizona, LLC. Okay. She forms that on January 9th. 2005, we've gone over this. Now we can document Erica. She is at Notre Dame. She is playing basketball. She also is in the pageant world. She wins first runner-up of the National America Miss Arizona pageant. But the most crucial part of 2005 is what Lori Franzwey is doing, because people have pointed this out, but there is a relic that shows you that she received money from the government. iMet Laboratories. She's listed in the House bill budget. She's receiving money from the Department of Homeland Security's iMet Laboratories. Perhaps we could not find formation docs for that, but maybe we can assume that that's related to Intelemet, because she's starting it's Intelemet Arizona, Intelemet. That could be shortened from Intelemet Laboratories. Okay, what is she doing for them? In 2006, we know Erica's going to win the National American Miss Teen pageant. She gets that chance to travel and to meet Senator John Kyle. She also is going to present plans for what nobody knows to Rep. J.D. Hayworth. And she gets involved in charity, Andrea's Closet, which is going to work with a hospital in Winslow. We showed you this
Oh my God, this is unreadable. I don't know where she pulled this up from, but I was just about to stop and read it. There is no reading this. Yeah.
article. This truly is the best version we could find. I know it's very smudged, but I wanted to point out to you that somebody emailed me about this article. Erica sort of tells this story. We received an interesting email because we showed you this article, and in this article, I'm going to read for you what it actually states. This is Erica speaking. She says, quote, "Winslow has so much character. We love stopping here." And then the writer continues, she and her family have come through Winslow many times on their way to basketball games around the state that she plays in. The email we received came from a very credible person. I will leave it at that. I'm going to protect this person's identity. They said, "That is BS. That is BS. They explained to me something I didn't know. Maybe you did. But in the state of Arizona, 80% of the population lives in Maricopa County." And the person went on to say, "I'm very familiar with basketball. I can tell you that at most, because of the way that they structured doing teams and traveling teams, Erica would at most, if she played for all 4 years of high school, because Winslow is located 3 hours outside of Scottsdale, she would have only gone to Winslow 2 times. So this is just, her mother is involved in this, immediately flagging this as weird. How did she get involved with this hospital? Elsewhere, she says that she also loves to do charity work abroad. That would imply Erica has already been abroad, right? She's already been abroad. So was she with Lori? Did Lori and her travel to do some stuff with the military? It's a fair assumption, or it's a fair question, rather. They haven't answered our earlier questions, so probably no chance that they're going to give us clear answers on this either. We can jump back into our timeline to relevant portions. In 2007, we know she graduates from Notre Dame Prep. She is Miss America Teen. She begins playing basketball at Regis University. Lori's AZ Tech International Incorporated is going to be canceled for lack of a tax filing, but don't worry, she's going to bring it back soon. we can essentially now jump back into the timeline into 2008, because that's where we really left off. Erica's missing. She's locked away like Cinderella. She's reading her Bible. She's only seeing her pastor while at Regis University for that 2007-2008 school year. I should mention Erica was majoring in business administration. Okay, that was her. That was
That's how many fucking schools does this girl go to? I mean, she went to like how many schools have been listed? Like,
her major.
damn. Like, you're moving around like a hot potato, son. I just the question for me is still, where did Erica's mom get this company idea? Like, why all of a sudden the LLCs, the incorporations, why all of a sudden you're going overseas and doing work abroad for Iraq, for Operation Iraqi Freedom in Afghanistan, whatever? It just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, she didn't invent the fucking telephone, so why is she making a telecommunications company when it comes to and getting contracts? It just seems so set up to me, obviously, right?
And that record, that relic of her, is still available on the Regis player bio. It tells us what she was doing, majoring in business administration. Now, we can assume while she's locked away the following year, and this is a kind assumption, that she continued her studies online. But in the future, she's going to edit and say that she majored in political science from the beginning. That's not true. What we do know for certain is that it's going to take Erica 5 years to graduate college. And for some reason, in this year of 2008, Lori's going to receive a lot of money from the Army National Guard. IMET Laboratories, again, associated with Lori Franzfey, the Army National Guard, is going to have to disclose that they gave $2.4 million to IMET Laboratories. Take a look at that. J3.
Yep. $2.4 million former Rep. Harry Mitchell, Scottsdale, Arizona, IMET Laboratories Incorporated, National Guard Bureau, J3J6, National Military Cyber Operations, Air National. She was working in cyber operations and shit like that. I guarantee that it was them boys that helped her secure this.
J6, that's got to do with like cyber security, cyber operations. So Erica already, via her mother, who she claims raised her as a single mom, she didn't, unless maybe her mindset, it was the single mom because Erica was over on a base with her mother. But we now know that during this year, this crucial year where Erica is missing, her mother is going to wind up having received $2.4 million. I mean, this woman
How could Erica be raised by a single mom if she's so busy with these government contracts and working abroad and all this other stuff?
model to a secretary to now she's getting all of this money for tech. It's interesting. Let's jump into 2009 because it's a most crucial year. Things are going to start to get spicy. Okay, so remember, going into this, Lori's already working with the United States military. She's receiving millions. Do not forget that. In 2009, Lori Franzfey is going to establish Everyday Heroes Like You in April. In her filing, she will claim that it is a faith-based organization that is raising funds and developing programs for vulnerable children. Okay, they publish this initially on July 2nd of 2009. Okay, Lori seems a bit busy. She's already working with the government. She's maybe in Afghanistan, or at least creating tech that's going to be used in Afghanistan. And now, wow, this hero is jumping in and going, I'm going to help vulnerable children. Why does that make me uncomfortable? Do I have a right to feel uncomfortable about that? Do you guys feel uncomfortable about that? Military bases and doing stuff for the military, and now like I'm going to help kids a little bit. Maybe I'm wrong. But with everything I know about Lori, I don't love it. Then in October, the same year, right after she establishes this, it is announced that the Romanian government has agreed to allow America to set up a military base along the Black Sea. Now, that's the first time things are crazy. Erica is going to make the claim, by the way, on a future podcast entitled Free Thinkers Only, that shortly after they established this charity, Everyday Heroes Like You, she's going to go to China to help women who were sex trafficked. So to be clear, she establishes this in 2009. Her mother establishes this in 2009. Where did Erica go to China? When did Erica go to China in 2009? I want you to listen to Erica in her own words. Take a listen.
I decided to create something called Everyday Heroes Like You, where we're able to, originally, it was focused on bringing funds and awareness to various grassroots organizations that were in specific communities that would be able to have volunteers that are transparent with their funds, that are actually doing what they're saying they're doing, instead of just having 70% of the funds go to admin and only 30% towards the cause. So really just focusing on making sure there was a home for transparent organizations that people could learn about, get involved with. But from there, it kind of grew into something more global. I was living in China and doing a lot of work with the victims from sex trafficking, and then began to phase that into working with the Marine Corps and the Army, and then was able to work with a orphanage in Romania.
So she's clear there. Everyday Heroes comes first. She goes and she's working with sex trafficking victims in China. Then she gets this partnership with the Marine.
Yeah, the only way that she's gonna be able to do anything like that in China is if she's using like if she's on their like payroll, or like she's doing stuff for them, like with their own, like they're not gonna let her just like, yeah, you're right, Skippy. But she says she's working with sex trafficking victims. I'm sorry, but like I just don't know how you even go about like going to help sex trafficking victims in China. How do you even know there's victims in China? Where do you get the names from? Where do you get the information from? Excuse me. It just sounds weird to me. Sounds doesn't sound right. I'll be right back.
And then she goes out and establishes the Romanian Angels Project. That's what she says then. Don't hold Erica to being consistent. You'll drive yourself crazy. But we're still in 2009. Who knows what's real with that? I wanted to play it. What we do know is that Erica shouldn't be in Colorado anymore, even by her own standards, which she says, I was there for my first 2 years of school. Well, in 2009, she should not be in Colorado anymore. And yet she is going to compete in November for Miss Colorado 2010. So you compete in the November before, so you wear the crown for the following year. So she competes in 2009 for Miss Colorado, and she places 4th runner-up. How did she qualify to compete is one of my questions. Now, I'll have you guys know, you'll see I added a note here that 2009, you got the Romanian government agreeing to allow America to set up a military base. That's when you start to see Jeffrey Epstein beginning to procure women from Romania per his emails that are now available. He's going to instantly get his hands over into Romania. Look, he's offering, here is information for the girl from Romania who will receive $10,000. There have been headlines about how often he refers to Romania throughout his emails. There is no question. This headline reads, several Romanian women named in newly released Epstein case files. I'll add here also that the #1 university that he seems to be involved with is Arizona State University, which Erica will eventually graduate from. For the purposes of right now, just know that Jeffrey Epstein, we have emails going back to 2009, right when this base gets established, and suddenly he is interested in procuring models from Romania. Okay, lock that into your mind, because 2010 is going to get crazy. This is the year that Erica will claim that she went to Loyola Marymount in her junior year of college. So that's going to be from fall 2009, spring 2010 about. We can find her in a yearbook or a graduation list. No person has come forward yet and said that they remember attending class with her, but she also could have attended classes online. I would assume, given the amount of travel that she keeps indicating, that she probably did take a lot of classes online. So just wanted to show you that this is when she is supposed to be at Loyola Marymount. On January 6th of this year, Jerry Franzfey creates an LLC called Luminarius with her daughter, the one that she had when she was 14, Deborah Himsel. She's going to follow mommy's footsteps from the very beginning, getting into psychology. It's another charter school company. Okay. Now, in my mind, when I think about charter schools, and I had received an article that was written about the corruption, particularly of charter schools in Arizona, you have to, or I had to ask myself, what are they doing with these charter schools? What would be the benefit of having these charter schools? Well, you being in charge of schools, you could create records for anybody.
You'd be able to have records, names, access to anyone.
You would literally be able, if you'd
be able to have records, names, access to anyone who goes there, be able to have basically a roster of people that you can go through and that might fit your needs. Pretty sus.
Wanted to, and you had some people who were maybe illegal, and you needed to get them into school pretty quickly in elementary school, it would be good to control a fleet of charter schools. I'm not saying that's the case with Luminarius Group, but I'm finding this theme to be interesting of charter schools. And again, you can look up many articles about the corruption of the particularly charter schools in Arizona, which begins with Tesseract, and now it continues to move. It's an interesting story. In November of 2010, this is where we find Erica filming November Renaissance, and they eventually put up a trailer on Kickstarter. She, in particular, is working with a lot of actors, directors, people involved in this project are affiliated with Fort Huachuca and Sierra Vista. Like, that is an intel base. How did Erica get this role? How did this happen? How is she doing this in addition to her studies? Maybe that's why she takes a year longer to graduate.
If you guys hear that beeping and the noise and stuff, there's freaking huge ass plows outside right now plowing snow.
I'm not sure, but I'm certainly interested in the fact that this movie, which never came out, was about corporate espionage, spies going into a corporate company, working on behalf of a global government. That is a little too on the nose for me. And again, by this time, Erica already has military connections via her mother. Where is her mother based, by the way? I'm going to assume if you're doing tech and you're creating tech for the DHS, you're not just doing this from like your basement. Is that a fair assumption? I don't know.
Again, the question is, I just want to know why they picked Lori. Why would they pick her mom to do that? Like the family's got to have, for like some sort of relation with the government for a long time. If
We,
they're if they're picking her, because it's just you don't just go from living in fucking Cincinnati, Ohio, to now you're moving to Arizona and getting government contracts and doing work in foreign wars, right? Which doesn't make sense.
also know that in 2010, Erica forms an LLC with her then boyfriend, Tyler Sandford. It's called Table 4 LLC. Tyler Sandford will be featured down the line as the actor in her My Kind of Crazy music video that she's going to film in 2013. I should also mention that he is a catcher for the Los Angeles Angels. Like I've said too many times, Erica is always dating people that have some level of fame. As you will see, this is the first person. But the end of 2007, or I should rather say this combination in 2010, pardon me, is crucial that I'm about to explain to you. Lori suddenly reinstates, remember, AZ Tech International Incorporated first gets into a little bit of trouble because they're not filing their tax returns, but then Lori moves to reinstate that in 2010. AZ Tech International, it's back on the table. Well, for the first time that year, the Black Sea Rotational Force 10 goes out to Romania, and they establish the Mihail Kogolnichono, I hope I'm saying that right, Kogolnichono, probably not, air base in Romania. You can see that here. Marines, sailors of the Black Sea Rotational Force 2010 officially kicked off their 3-month engagement in the Black Sea region in a ceremony at Romania's Mihail Kogolnichono airfield on May 17th. Now, what's incredibly interesting, and we're going to get more into that in tomorrow's episode, is in particular, a lot of those people are coming from Reno, Nevada, of all places, coming from Reno, Nevada.
I wish Stuck in Reno was in here.
They are there, the banner that they're using, they're allegedly there because they're going to promote regional stability. We have a way with words, I will say, in the West, regional stability, spreading democracy. The reality is that Colonel Otto Buscher is going to be accused of running a brothel and a human trafficking ring from 2010, the very year that this was established, all the way through to 2015. Yes, Erica will come into contact with Colonel Otto Buscher. We're not going to focus on that today because the more important thing I'd like to introduce to you is Tyler Boyer. Tyler Boyer in 2010, just when this gets established, is going to make an appearance in Romania to work with the Romanian parliament. I'm sorry, what? He's going to stay approximately from May through to the end of the summer. This is the exact same time frame that the Black Sea Rotational Force 10 is.
I went to Romania to do some work with the senator in the parliament there. Hey, you don't have to. And he was friends with this guy, and that owned the modeling agency. It took me to the beach for 4 days, and I legit slept collectively like 10 hours. I was at the lake and they were there. I thought it would grab your attention, but yeah, these girls were crazy, and I got completely Romanian sloshed, and it got very interesting. Haha, Romanian women don't mess around. This doesn't even make sense. If you're reading this like what are these replies right here? Like what is this?
Going to be there. And here is the proof. Somebody had messaged me very early on. It was the bottom of my inbox when I was saying, I know that he went to Romania and was trying to figure out what he was doing. And they were like, oh, I actually talked to him about that. They were super friendly about it. I talked to him about that. And here's the conversation. Tyler writes, I went to Romania to do some work with a senator in the parliament there. And then he says, and he was friends, meaning the senator in Romania, was friends with this guy that owned a modeling agency and took me to the beach. That's going to be in Constanta, just so you know, for 4 days and legit slept collectively like 10 hours. The person says, oh, I was at the lake and they were there. I don't know what this person's talking about. And then Tyler says, but yeah, these girls were crazy and I got completely Romanian sloshed and it got very interesting. Haha, this is the Tyler I know. Everybody knows this is who Tyler is. By the way, pretty sure Tyler was married in 2010. Check the records. I think he was married to his first wife in 2010. And also, isn't he LDS? Doesn't that mean he's not supposed to be drinking? Oh, who cares? It's all for appearances anyways. Super Christian company. Who cares what they're actually doing? Let's continue. Tyler says they had this homemade whiskey that was like, I can't explain it, but yeah, the girls were wow. Both of them. I told you he's a sexual demon. It's like crazy. I mean, there's just so much out there. It's crazy. Anyways, he says, the person said, I knew a few girls from there. Homemade whiskey makes a person frisky. I think that's in a song. And Tyler responds, haha, that's probably the cause and effect statement of the night. And I can drink a lot, so I don't pass out or get weird or anything. Ha. Okay. We can come out of that. What was he doing? Who was the person in Romanian parliament that he was there to see? And what was the name of the modeling agency? I am dying to know. Because it's going to get real interesting now, right? Erica just can't remember. She can't remember how she knows him. She can't remember how she met him. It must. She said to me, maybe it was through a senator. Specifically, that's what she said to me in person. She said it might have been through a senator. I think it could have been through a senator. I think it definitely could have been through a senator. Honestly, the vibes are vibing here. I find that you both have a little something to do with what's going on in Romania as soon as we get there. As soon as America gets there and establishes a base, which is going to become pretty much synonymous, if you speak to Romanians, with trafficking. Models in Romania? Do you know Jeffrey Epstein, Tyler? Did you guys come across each other? Because he was dealing with models in Romania too. Anyways, we got to figure out, if you guys don't mind. I know they're just carrying on.
I'm not gonna lie, allegedly I'm a comedian and I've been off my meds for a long time, right? That's what we say on this channel. But it wouldn't be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if Erica Kirk was working with the guy, with how close they are all to Israel, right?
Charlie's legacy, everybody grieves differently, and it might not be the time to ask. But I'd really like to know what model agency that Romanian parliament member was working with that Tyler had a fun night out with. I think it's a good place to pause before we bring Erica to Romania. That'll be in tomorrow's episode. We're going to take a brief break, and I'm going to give you an interesting update about her uncle, Rick, doing in Romania. Right? Don't you guys just want to know what he was doing? I'm dying to know. It's like the one piece of her life Erica can't remember is how she met Tyler Boyer. It's crazy.
Because it's like, dude, like these guys are all connected to this Christian organization, or these guys are coming up making these like moves to make a movement. And what is going and like? I would understand Erica dealing with modeling agencies because she quote unquote modeled, right, Miss Arizona, more than I would understand Tyler Boyer going to work with modeling agencies. What the hell is he doing out there? And why is the common denominator constantly Romania? Romania, excuse me. Pretty interesting. I'd like to know who else went to Romania.
Hey, and the person that introduced you to your husband. I feel like you and Lori and Tyler go back. Like way back. You know what I'm saying? I feel like you guys have known each other for like since at least 2010. If I'm being honest. I think you knew the Farnsworth and I think you knew the Boyers. That's I'd actually go back further. I think you guys maybe even knew each other since Afghanistan. But I'm gonna wait until tomorrow to introduce that. How you guys maybe even could have known each other. I mean, just dancing around each other there in Arizona, all getting involved in the same stuff, charter schools. And then you and Tyler are going to graduate in the same year. It's also crazy. I need to know. Tell me. What happens? What happened with Turning Point USA? You just got lucky around pilgrimage, I guess. And there Charlie was at the airport in Israel. You saw him. Your mom said, go up to him. She's a pusher, right? Lori's a pusher. I always thought it was so strange how you never mentioned.
Dude, she's really going hard. I'm not gonna lie. People can say what they want about Candace, but I love her attitude, dude. The way she's just sitting here and going hard at it, and it's true. And then when you know Erica's past, oh yeah, Erica just magically got with all these guys who she used as stepping stones until she seen Charlie Kirk in an airport. Then her mom said, "Go talk to him. Bet you can get with that guy. He looks like he hasn't got a woman as hot as you in a long time, right?" And I bet you Charlie, he was all like, "Oh my God, like this girl is beautiful. She's talking to me. I'm immersed in her beauty." And beauty blinds people,
That I was at the airport with.
especially good people. Beauty blinds people, especially good people. In love, right? Charlie really, I consistently will say this, and I will always say this, and I'll stand by it. I just feel like Charlie was who he said he was. I really do. I feel like Charlie was genuine. And I feel like it was just a bunch of ingenuine people around him who got to him, and they were good at manipulating, and he wanted to give people chances, and he was a man of God. So sorry if you guys hear that beeping. I'll shut up and shut or turn the mic off real quick.
With Charlie. Just thought that was so weird. You never said that. I saw Charlie with Candace because we were actually together for that trip. So interesting. Anyways, it's a tangled web that we weave, Erica. Fun little update for you guys on Uncle Rick. I would argue that he's a fraud. Or actually, I wouldn't argue it. It's not my opinion. That was the bar's opinion. Remember, I told you he lost his legal license in 2009, and I wasn't sure what or why or how. I did know that his father, Tony, had bestowed upon him some of that money. But he was like, look, I don't know how this happened or how it got here. Well, there actually was a very detailed article about how he lost his license, and I'd like to share that information with you. We learned the reason. Rick is the movant that is mentioned throughout this article. I'm just going to clear this up for you. The first reason that his legal license was removed is because he didn't pay his dues. Okay, my best guess is the reason he stopped paying his dues in Kentucky was that he was hoping that they would stop their investigation into him. But they didn't. We learned that in 2007, they then opened an investigation into him for the following reasons. Reason number one is because while employed by the Bank of Corbin to perform title searches on certain properties, Rick didn't inform the bank that other mortgages already existed on those properties. So they were issuing loans to multiple people for the same property, right? This means a failure to disclose this information resulted in the Bank of Corbin issuing loans on 4 of the properties that were already encumbered by pre-existing mortgages. Banks just loans, and it's going to this one property.
What's up with all the fraud in this family? She's just crazy.
Just so you guys are clear, this is exactly what led to the financial crisis. You ever seen the movie The Big Short? This is what happened. Okay? We continue. The second reason is that Bill transferred 50% of the stock that he owned in B&G Holdings LLC. And that's Bill, his brother, the one that goes to prison for years. Well, we learned that Bill transferred 50% of that stock to an LLC called Bill Erpenbeck Children LLC. And Rick managed that LLC. So Rick's brother, Bill, made the transfer. This goes on without any consideration. And while Rick was indebted to several leading institutions because he stole money from people. And then that went to an LLC controlled by his brother, Rick. And by the way, while they were going through bankruptcy court, trying to find money, you know how this happens after they steal from middle-class people and poor people, and they go, well, where's the money? And people lose their homes. And well, then these people go into bankruptcy court, and Bill's like, I don't know where the money is. Well, actually, in this case, the money was in an LLC controlled by Rick. So that's what happened. Rick ended up not only with Tony's money, but he also ended up with a good portion of Bill's money as well. Cool. Thirdly, Rick prepared a deed transferring property to a woman named Anita Andrews, but apparently he did not record that deed with the county, and the deed wasn't actually signed by Anita Andrews. That's weird. And he then quickly transferred that same property to his mother and father. So this kind of feels like this is deed fraud. There's some sort of fraud going on with property. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm feeling really weird about the fact that he's the witness on these crazy divorce docs. I'm feeling weird.
Yeah, I just feel like they sent it's like the cartels. You just send off all these people in your family to work in these different professions. So when you want to make shit go your way, there it is. You know what I mean? I mean, look how much fraud has just been showed in general. You know,
Vibes are not vibing. Ultimately, Rick was found guilty. That's why he had his license suspended, but only within the state of Kentucky in August of 2009. But, and here is the kicker.
Guess where he moved? Arizona.
They found that his actions did not rise to the level of criminality, just professional negligence. It's amazing. It is amazing what wealthy people what wealthy criminals get away with, right? So could you just imagine the people whose entire lives got ruined because they believed in this company, they gave their money, they're doing more, whatever it is, and then banks are going under, their entire life savings have been depleted, and we just look at the characters involved, and he's like working at Universal. 2 in more LLCs with Lori. Lori's working with the government. Like I said, there's no bar to entry when you're with the gang. You know what I mean? The people that are running things, doesn't matter. They write the laws. They'll read the laws if they want to read the laws. And this was professionally not okay. He committed no crimes here. He just was negligent professionally. But let you get too many parking tickets, you go to jail. Let you speed. If you're just speeding a little bit too quick on the freeway, all right, straight to jail. Never get your life back. Oh, you've got a record now. You were smoking a joint. You got a record. Hunter Biden, you're smoking crack down the freeway.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. Sorry. I just, that was golden.
Freeway. All right, straight to jail. Never get your life back. Oh, you've got a record now. You were smoking a joint. You got a record. Hunter Biden, you're smoking crack down the freeway. Recording yourself. You hand in your own laptop. He's like, I'm like, what? We flying high. We can do whatever we want, okay? He's good. Yeah, he's never going to see a day in prison. Just want to let you know, these are the people that rule over us. Anyways, enjoy your time at Universal Studios. In other news, Blake Neff is obviously demented. I don't know what's wrong with this person. I don't know if he might be Jewish. I don't even know. Cause I hope he's Jewish. I hope he's Jewish because
I mean, you put a small hat right about here, fits the bill.
or I don't know what's going on here. If this is just like a social disorder, whatever it is, they're obviously watching every minute of the series. And despite everything that we have presented, despite the questions that we sent them ahead of the series that were then forwarded to a lawyer for no reason, I had my producer, Ashley, said questions and they're like forwarded to a lawyer and the lawyer writes back all snippy. But we'd like to know the answers to some of these questions. We're saying a lot here, right? Possible gang ties. We don't know. In the past, obviously, Vince Lombardi, is that her grandpa? I don't know. Is that Lori's mother? Is Lori even Erica's mother? Erica's weird little Tesseract school. Fraud following Lori. Money disappearing everywhere they go. But there was only one thing that Blake Neff could not bear. He couldn't bear it. He put his foot down last night and he issued a full-throated statement. He did not care. He came for me hard because no one comes for Shabbat Shalom. No one comes for Erica Shabbat Shalom. Remember yesterday I was joking about Shabbat Shalom, daddy's home, throw down the phone. Look at what Turning Point, what Blake actually authored. This is not a joke, okay? He could not bear me ridiculing Erica over Shabbat Shalom. This is what he wrote on X. I have avoided commenting on most of what Candace Owens' claims are the past few months. However, her last episode contains such a blatant untruth about Charlie's daily life that I feel compelled to correct it. In this episode, Candace Owens aggressively ridicules Erica for using the phrase Shabbat Shalom and suggests that Charlie's last book, Stop in the Name of God, about the value of observing the Sabbath is a fabrication to make Charlie appear more pro-Jewish and pro-Israel than he really was. It is very revealing that Candace would fixate on this, as it immediately reveals unfamiliarity with Charlie's behavior for the entire period that I knew him. Charlie was observing his evangelical Christian version of Shabbat. Like, I can't even read something. It's absurd. We can come out of that because it is just absurd. It is so absurd. I can't even believe that he's authoring this. First off, Blake, I could show you text messages that turning your phone off on Saturday, I was doing first and telling Charlie he should do. Before anybody, as soon as I met George, that became a thing. I'm aware he turned his phone off on Saturdays, okay? That's been going on. I did it first, okay? I've been watching this whole story spun, and what we're making fun of is that being the first thing that you hit on toward, the idea that he finished this book, that this was his legacy. It's pretty obvious here that you guys were trying to make us just remind us of how much Charlie loves Israel. I mean, Bibi Netanyahu came out within 48 hours to remind us of how much Charlie loved Israel. We're aware of the PSYOP, and it failed. But that this would be the thing that you broke your silence on. Like, everything Candace is saying. How dare she discount the fact that Charlie, I just want to be clear, Charlie loved dreidel. Dreidel. He made it out of clay. He'd spin it, he'd play. He loved latkes. Enough is enough. They're delicious, they're crunchy, and they're salty. And we will not stand for Candace to say this. I'm sorry, Blake, I'd like to apologize. Shabbat Shalom, daddy's home. He threw in his phone. Glad we cleared that up. Charlie's phone was off on Saturdays. Bro was like a rapper, sliding in like Usher. Daddy's home, Shabbat Shalom. I'm sorry, Erica, and I'm sorry, Blake. I will never do this again. We'll be back after a quick break. All right, you guys, if you are trying to get healthier, sleep better, or finally later, there was a stranger.
All right, we're done. There wasn't really much in this episode that I found interesting, to be honest with you. Like, yeah, we all know that her mom was working with the telecommunications, whatever, made businesses, whatever, got contracts, whatever. Get to the fucking meat and potatoes of the situation. How did she get into it? That's what I want to know. What made Lori France be the one? Looks like I'm just gonna have to look it up. Ken Walz is testifying in front of Congress right now.
Headed by Somali immigrants receive one or more forms of public assistance, compared to just 21% of native-born Minnesotan households. Why is that disparity so extreme under your watch, sir?
I can't speak specifically, Congressman, but I would anticipate that new generation immigrants, whether they be Norwegian or whether they be Hmong or whether they be Somali, probably on the front end as they're establishing home ownership, education.
I think we should be bringing folks to our country that are going to contribute and not just siphon off of the tax dollars
are
of
contributing.
American citizens. Mr. Governor Walz, yes or no, would stricter vetting of immigrants and refugees have?
Is there still a problem in, we'll say in Minnesota? I know we're not.
I think there's more work to be done. Yes, I will tell you that. And we're working on it. I have a package that I introduced last week. One of the things that I think is going to be helpful, and I know you're working on it up here, is the ability to use AI. It's the pre-screening. What you don't want to hear from us is, and I don't want to hear, that we're arresting people after they did it. We need to stop it before it happened. And
I agree with some of that.
We're moving
We do
upstream.
need to arrest them, however.
We do. We do, but if we're just continuously chasing our tails, it's like I said, if you arrest
Well,
one
I'd like
part-
to keep working with you because we've got to stop this. And so
I would
if you
welcome
put-
that.
If you put together a list that we can.
He seems like a person right now. I haven't even been watching this fucking hearing for 60 seconds. And this guy literally looks like he's in trouble. He knows he's in trouble, but he has a slim way to get out of it. And he's in the principal's office right now. Right now, he just made a mistake and he's in the principal's office. And look at his face. Look at this face. Look at it. He's a I would like that. I would welcome that. I would welcome your help. Just don't put me in jail. I think we need to use AI. Why don't you just fucking vet the people who are applying for loans and creating daycares? It's not that hard. Everybody else does it. Holy shit. Holy,
Can send to other governors and say, here's what we did.
That's
General?
That's fantastic.
that's fantastic. Thank you for giving me a way out.
Congressman Sessions, let me just say thank you for your question. I absolutely think there is more that all of us can do to protect the public dollar and get the money where it was intended to go. There are all kind of ways to make sure.
Yes, sir,
that-
but we're talking about the lessons learned. Are you going to show
Right.
up today and take, as the governor did, and say, we made a mistake, I owe an apology to people, we believe that what you've tried to do today to defend, I'm not trying to put you in a corner, General. I'm
to
trying
answer.
to get you, because we're sitting here trying to get to where we're going to go.
I can assure you, Congressman, that I am here to work to improve this system, and there are improvements that can be made. And your offer to work on a bipartisan basis to solve this fraud crisis, I am all in. And if we can get out of fixing the blame and get to fixing the problem, that would be an enormous thing for me. And I
Fixing the blame, bro. You guys let like thousands, if not millions, of Somalis come here and create daycares and gave them shit ton of money.
thank you.
It's not hard to prove that you have kids in your daycare, okay? It's not hard. These fucking daycares are going right now and they have, sorry for my language, trying to be more family friendly. Damn it, Sheldon. God. Anyway, some of them quote that they have 110 children there. But like, where's the proof? You guys are just giving them millions of dollars, millions of taxpayer dollars. It's not about an apology. It's about figuring out what the hell happened and holding people accountable.
For asking.
Well, it's my hope that you will know that being here today, we're doing our job, other people doing their job, but we've got to get to where we can then say, and here is the problem, and we'll take, so Governor did, I accept responsibility, and let's get on to fixing this, because tomorrow is a new day. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the time.
Yes,
I
sir.
yield back my time.
Thank you. Chair recognizes my friend, Ms. Talib.
He says that, but then he cuts me off. Thank you all for coming here. I think it's really important. And, you know, Reverend, I can tell that you care deeply about your community, and it takes courage to come before this committee, especially when you hear so much, to me, just misinformation, also embedded in racist tropes about your community. And so I wanted to ask you, you know, I think a lot of Americans, when you think about it, what compelled you to speak out and join hundreds of other faith leaders at the St. Paul airport to protest against the violent ICE occupation of your community?
Thank you for the question. Yes, I am here just as I was that day at the airport, because I am representative of so many Minnesotans who are actively engaged in the work of neighboring. And I'm also here, as I was that day, because there are so many Minnesotans for whom it is not safe to speak out today.
And I'll tell you, you know, we're learning a lot. I think the country, the whole country is learning a lot from all of you and your neighboring and showing love and showing up for your community. And I know it took a lot of courage for even some of the elected officials to stand up and say, you know, not on our watch. You know, we talk about the fearlessness that is needed sometimes to fight for our rights. And some people will continue to gaslight folks and call us domestic terrorists, to surveil us more, to try to bully us and intimidate us to silence. And I just want the Minnesota people to know, I know my district sees you all, and we say continue it. You are freeing all of us when you continue to speak up, and you're protecting all of us as well. In response to, of course, the powerful local resistance, you know, one of the things they keep saying is it's ended, it's done. You heard my colleague from Boston, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, talk about trauma. It's not done. There needs to be a lot of healing, and I don't think they.
I'm not gonna lie, I really don't give about what they're talking about right now. I just want to hear Walz be under fire here. So I want to hear what he had to say, and then we're gonna get off this, because this is like, what? He should be in jail. Just my opinion. You know, my humble little opinion.
No.
I want you to help.
You've already answered the question. You said you didn't ever stop payments, and that's what the problem is, and that's what the Democrats are complaining about. Oh my goodness, Governor, isn't it true that state auditors and officials raise concerns about fraud and vulnerabilities in programs overseen by your administration?
I can't confirm that, but I'm assuming we have always ongoing OLA.
I'll take that as a yes. Those warnings were communicated to senior officials in your administration, including yourself, correct?
I can't speak.
See his face, dude. Look at this guy's face.
Administration, including yourself, correct?
I can't speak if it was directly.
I think the correct answer to that would also be yes. Despite those warnings, you did not order a broad stop payment or suspension of payment in any program at that time, correct?
We're not going to stop payments of Feed Children until we have the proof that things happen. In 2019, we did start taking action. I went to the legislature.
Okay, Governor Walz, when fraud concerns were raised earlier.
That's backwards. You should stop payments to Feed Children to figure out if there is children, right? We're not going to stop payments till we know that something's really happening. No, you just stop payments. Take about a week. All you do is stop it. Ask them to provide information on all the students there or all the kids, and then you resume the payments.
In your tenure in the
I think I just figured it out in like 2 seconds.
Child Care Assistance Program, did your administration stop payments at that time?
The Child Care Assistance Program and
the answer is no. When fraud concerns were
Would
raised.
you like me to answer or not, Chairman?
Well, it's yes or
I'm
no.
trying, I want you to help.
You've already answered the question. You said you didn't ever stop payments, and that's what the problem.
I want you to help. Bro, you're the fucking governor, dude, or whatever he is of Minnesota. Like, how are you sitting there saying, well, I want you to help? You were supposed to help your people and your taxpayers by stopping this. He seemed, like I say, he seems like a kid who's in the frickin' principal's office trying to take any way out he can so he doesn't have to go to fucking jail.
Problem is, and that's what the Democrats are complaining about. Oh my gosh, Trump stopped payments. Well, my God, you lost billions to fraud in Minnesota. That's what this hearing's
Mr.
about.
Chairman,
you didn't stop payments because you didn't want to rock the boat. And when fraud concerns
That's not
were
correct,
raised,
Chairman.
when fraud concerns were raised in Medicaid, home and community-based services, did your administration stop payments? No, you did not. When fraud concerns were raised in non-emergency medical transportation, did your administration stop payments?
Chairman, if I could mention what a stop payment meant by what the administration did last week is 400,000 children without health care. Are you stopping payment if one person?
We believe that's your fault and the Attorney General's fault because you do nothing about fraud, even though everyone in America sees
our Medicare
with their
error
own
rate is
eyes
lower than your
the
state.
fraud. You have been defrauded. You have not been good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. And the Democrat position is, well, keep the money flowing. The American taxpayers have had enough.
I think that's
I am so glad to hear this being said to Tim Walz right now. It feels so good to listen to this because it's so right. Like he's all saying, "Well, you stopped, healthcare for 400,000, whatever." Dude, it wouldn't have had to happen if we didn't have to fix your problem. Billions of dollars. The estimated amount of billions is like 3 years of what we send to Israel, right? Like, holy shit. He should be in jail. There shouldn't even be a question. I feel like as a leader, you have duties and you have rights. If you do not uphold those duties and you do not uphold those rights, you either need to leave office or if you continue to do it and be negligent, you need to serve some time for messing up the position of power and disappointing the people that you're supposed to be representing. Period.
Had enough. They want their taxpayer dollars spent wisely. We all support social
That's
programs
not a fair
to the vulnerable.
characterization.
But if you're going to waste the money to fraudsters, then we have to stop and recalculate.
We're not. We're putting them in jail when we can, Chairman. And some of these programs are crafted in such a way that there's a procedure to follow. And I'm with you. $1 is too much. I don't think there's a lot of difference here.
Okay, yeah, well then, let's just talk about how you're putting them in jail. That's fine. This is a little bit of an offshoot. But what about how you just put the Somali flag up and you're starting to change everything so it's like Somaliland over there? This is fucking America, bro. And there's just, I'm sorry for swearing. I shouldn't be swearing because it's gonna mess up my monetization. But dude, it just pisses me off. How are you sitting here with a straight face and saying all this? It's just insane. Not only was money fraudulently taken, but it was taken by immigrants, dude. Was even fraudulently taken by a U.S. citizen. I'm not gonna lie, and this may be a hot take, but I would much rather prefer a U.S. citizen fraudulently take some money than you let some people come over here and fraudulently take the money and then send it back to their damn country to terrorist organizations, bro. Oh my God. Good morning, Stacy. God bless you.
If you want to help us get at this, the question is it a sledgehammer? Is it a scalpel? I understand there's no political upside.
Well, let's get into what we've talked. You eventually did pause payments in certain programs, but that wasn't until late 2025 after the federal government stepped in. Is that correct?
I don't think that's a fair characterization of stepped in. We've been partners in this and working on them, but
let's move on. And that decision occurred only after large-scale fraud had already taken place for years. Now, Governor Walz, employees inside state agencies raised concerns about fraud and improper payments for years. Is that correct?
Inside agencies, we've been prosecuting them for years. Yes.
But they have raised concern. Agencies have raised concern about fraud in Minnesota, correct? For
Each
years.
of those, yes, when they do and they're prosecuted.
Some
Yes.
of those employees faced retaliation after raising those concerns. Is that correct?
That is not correct, Chairman.
Okay.
Minnesota has strong whistleblower protections.
Attorney General Ellison, you are the chief legal officer of the state of Minnesota, correct?
Yes.
Your office advises agencies on compliance with federal and state law, correct?
Yes.
Retaliation against whistleblowers reporting fraud is unlawful, correct?
That is right.
At any point during your tenure, did you tell state agencies to stop payments due to credible fraud allegations, yes or no?
Sir, we process.
When they say yes and no, it's so funny to watch them go, but trying to obfuscate and say some dumb, like just beat around the bush. Just say it. Say you didn't, bro. Just rip the Band-Aid off.
Prosecuted over 300 people in the Medicaid fraud area. We
300, I
convicted
would
them.
predict is a drop in the bucket. But you've never said to stop payments. That's what.
It's one of the highest rates in the country, sir.
Well, you have one of the highest fraud rates in the country in Minnesota.
That's not true. And my office doesn't have the authority to do a stop payment. We prosecute criminals when they're presented us by the agency.
So the answer is no, unfortunately. No one's ever from your office said to stop payments until we can get the fraud under control. So to summarize, you both knew about fraud risk and payments continued. Our investigation has shown that whistleblowers who were alerted about the widespread fraud were ignored, sidelined, and even retaliated against. Only after federal authorities ultimately stepped in did you take any action. It's not this committee's responsibility to decide guilt or dole out punishment. But it's clear there was a massive failure of oversight and, quite frankly, a failure of leadership. One wonders whether either of you should bear some personal responsibility for the billions of dollars siphoned off by fraudsters under your noses in the state that you led. Again, this isn't for the committee to decide, but based on your answers today and apparent failure to take any responsibility, still the answer to that question has become abundantly clear. And now
Mr. Chair, I seek unanimous consent to enter items into the record.
All right, before I recognize Mr. Lynch, Ms. Randall, you have a UC?
Thank you. I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a November 12th, 2025 article from ProPublica entitled How Trump Has Exploited Pardons and Clemency to Reward Allies and Supporters, which shows President Trump rewards those in his good graces. I also seek recognition to insert into the record a Washington Post article from December 19th, 2025 entitled Trump's Pardons Wipe Out Payments to Defrauded Victims, which shows that President Trump lets criminals and fraudsters walk free. And I also seek unanimous consent to enter into the record an article from May 29th, 2025 from ABC News titled Trump's Flurry of Pardons Include Some to Campaign Contributors.
And Ms. Presley, we'll do one at a time. We'll go to Mr. Lynch, then I'll recognize you. Mr. Lynch from Massachusetts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Governor, good to see you, my friend. Attorney General Ellison, good to see you again. Reverend, thank you for your willingness to testify before the committee. I want to shift gears here a minute, and I want to focus on ICE. So I was recently asked to serve as the co-chair of the 5 for 26 soccer tournament. It's a global tournament, the largest sporting event in the world. And my home city of Boston has been asked to host a lot of the games. In Boston, we'll host teams from Morocco, Ghana, Bolivia, Iraq, Scotland, France, England, and Suriname. We'll also host over 3 million foreign national visitors who are coming into Boston for these tournaments. And we recently learned from the Trump administration that ICE will play a key role in the security operations during those games. So we've got all these people flying in, foreign nationals, a lot of different countries, South America and elsewhere. Governor, since you've had direct and relevant experience on dealing with...
What the fuck is going on, dude? I must be finally taking some of this stuff out of my yard, dude. Thank God. There's so many big snow removal trucks out here. It's crazy. I'm sorry if you guys can hear it. My bad. I hope PT goes good for you today, Stacy. I'm probably gonna be on only for a little bit longer, and not only is my battery running low, but I'm working on other content today. So today's gonna be like a content day, so I can have some videos to upload throughout the week. I gotta start working on getting other videos up for my AdSense and everything else because it's just you know, I need to start taking advantage of being monetized, you know, because just hoping for super chats on vertical streams isn't enough. I need to work on other content and get views up and get myself in the algorithm so this can start being lucrative.
The Metro surge and the security operations of ICE. I was interested in getting your thoughts and your observations and any recommendations you might have to help us with confronting our experience or what we expect to see during these games with ICE coming in as well as so many foreign visitors?
Well, as I think the world saw, and don't take my word for it, take professional law enforcement across Minnesota and across the country, the most unprofessional, aggressive force that I think you could imagine. And I was here in front of this committee and answered all your questions on June 12th. And I warned this committee what a masked group of folks turned loose in an American city could do. And if I'm not mistaken, I said someone could get killed doing this. And I just want to be very clear about this. When Tom Homan had to come in to clean up the mess of Secretary Noem and Greg Bovino, Secretary Homan himself acknowledged Minnesota follows the law, exactly as I told you in this committee. So my advice to you, Mr. Lynch, is to get very public, upfront commitments from these folks. While
Yeah, I know some days I'm gonna be doing formats like this so I can get clips, and then other days I'm gonna be doing the other format or whatever, so we can continue to grow the community. But right now it's just it makes more sense for me to do, some days like this so I can get better clips, or at least work on getting better clips.
questions on June 12th, and I warned this committee what a masked group of folks turned loose in an American city could do. And if I'm not mistaken, I said someone could get killed doing this. And I just want to be very clear about this. When Tom Homan had to come in to clean up the mess of Secretary Noem and Greg Bovino, Secretary Homan himself acknowledged Minnesota follows the law, exactly as I told you in this committee. So my advice to you, Mr. Lynch, is to get very public, upfront commitments from these folks. While I disagree with Mr. Holman's views on many things, he's at least professional enough that he pulled the leash back and pulled these folks out of Minnesota after, again, misrepresenting the number of people they were detaining, misrepresenting before he got there exactly what Minnesota did. And I'm just going to name it on accountability. The Secretary of DHS, being chastised by Republican senators, added insult to injury to Minnesota, pouring salt in the wounds of the parents of Alex Preddy and Renee Good's family by not even apologizing or acknowledging. And if you want accountability, for one of the times, as far as I know, the attorneys know better, we are not being included in the investigation. And the actions that were taken of a gentleman who was shot in the leg was the night that Kristi Noem called me a domestic terrorist and said that this gentleman was attacking federal agents. Well, now we know the story. They lied. They are now under investigation, they being the federal agents. So look, I'm with you. I want your help on fraud. Why would I not want money to go to the programs I care deeply about, feeding people, clothing people, housing people? But what ICE did disrupted everything that we were doing. It disrupted our federal partners, and it forced our law enforcement agencies, who have worked hard to gain the public trust, to have the public believe in them. So my advice to you is, and especially when the world's coming to see this, let Boston's finest lead. Let the people of Massachusetts lead. Let the 10th Amendment stand for something and allow us to be able to do this. The people of Minnesota will hold us accountable if they don't feel we're doing a good enough job. But to demonize and retribution against a state, in the words of the president, in the words of the vice president, have done nothing. So, Mr. Lynch, the world should be looking forward to coming, but I would get it up front, and I would make sure that Boston's police department are in the lead.
Thank you. Attorney General Ellison, we need coordination between law enforcement agencies. This is a big job. What are your views on that likelihood of cooperation from ICE?
Well, I hope you get the cooperation that you need. In Minnesota, we don't have a good record of cooperation, which is interesting because so many times in the past, we have had great cooperation between local federal enforcers and local state ones, and we've just worked seamlessly. Nowadays, that has all changed, and that's quite unfortunate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back. Thank you for the courtesy.
Gentleman yields back. Ms. Presley?
Thank you. I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a February 2026 letter from 200 state lawmakers urging Congress to exercise its oversight authority and demand the administration immediately restore full child care funding that it had frozen for 5 states.
Without objection, it's ordered. Chair recognizes Dr. Fox from North Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I thank our witnesses for being here. Governor, you've reminded people that you were here last June. At that time, I reminded you that the Feeding Our Future scam made Minnesota ground zero for the largest COVID-19 fraud scheme in the nation. $250 million in federal taxpayer funds were taken out of the mouths of hungry children, and as the FBI noted, they were, quote, funneled into luxury homes, cars, and lavish lifestyles while families struggled. You assured me then that you wholeheartedly supported the federal government's effort to bring those responsible to justice. I appreciate your sentiment, but a person's actions matter more than their words. Governor Walz, when did you first become aware of the fraud in Feeding Our Future? A specific date, please.
Well, Congressman, it's good to see you. And having served in your job for 12 years, I can tell you my job is a little different as governor. For 7 years, I take a lot of meetings. I certainly wouldn't specifically state, but I think during that pandemic, I think by late 2020, we started to see the irregularities. They were flagged. And I will note that we cooperated.
State officials were aware of the fraud in early 2020.
So you're asking when I, in my office, the governor became good, and I don't have a specific date. But what I would say is we provided witnesses, documents, the U.S. Attorney and the FBI, and 79 of those people have been prosecuted going back to 2022.
Okay. Well, when I was chair of the Committee on Education and Workforce, I issued you a subpoena in September 2024 because you and your administration were not forthcoming about how your administration, quote, failed to identify what has been described as the largest pandemic fraud in the nation, end quote. In September 2024, you were aware of the Feeding Our Future fraud and your administration's handling of it, correct? Yes or no?
2024? Yes, by that time we had already put people in jail and had extensively investigated.
This committee has testimony that the Minnesota Department of Education briefed your office about the Feeding Our Future's draft lawsuit and litigation hold on April 28, 2020. Let me jog your memory. Is that correct?
I can't speak specifically to that. And if it's
it was April 2020. That means Feeding Our Future received a total of over $200 million in federal funds after you and your administration knew about the fraud concerns. Why didn't you stop sending money to Feeding Our Future as soon as the fraud concerns were raised?
Congressman, is following the program, we notified USGA under the Trump administration's first term. We had notified them, too, because it's a program administered out of USDA, and they were working to work through the process.
Didn't you say you were fearful of political retaliation?
No, I never said any such thing. I never said any such thing.
Well, that's what we understood. You were afraid of political retaliation. So, given the size and scope of the Feeding Our Future's fraud, I think you and your administration would have been on high alert looking for additional fraud in the state. But after seeing the handling of Feeding Our Futures and its $250 million in fraud, it came as no surprise to learn that even more staggering amounts of fraud, estimated at up to $9 billion, were uncovered in the Child Care Assistance Program, the Minnesota Medicaid program, and other programs. How could you allow such massive fraud schemes in your state to get to this point?
Congresswoman, we don't see anything by 9 million. Local press and everyone reports it about 300 million. But as I've said, if it's $1, it's too much. But we started in 2019 putting
you let it go way past $1, brother.
Fraud programs forward. After Feeding Our Future, we started going through and making sure every program had the integrity in it that it needed. And that's why you see convictions. That's why you see these programs going forward.
Why did it take nearly 7 years for you to get engaged to stop the fraud. 7 years.
We started in 2019, Congresswoman. It may be a surprise. If you arrest someone for stealing a car, other people are still going to try and steal cars. What we've tried to do is bring program integrity, but I'll go back to this. We're not going to shut down programs that have things that are going well in it, and we need to find that proper balance. And I've acknowledged that every year we're putting things in place, and Inspector
Governor
General.
Governor Walz, you did not do your job. You did not do your job. You did not protect taxpayer dollars. You allowed massive fraud. You and Mr. Ellison allowed massive fraud to go on in the state of Minnesota. And it is unfortunate, as somebody said, that you can't be held personally responsible at this stage of the game. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Gentlelady yields back. Chair now recognizes Mr. Krishnamurti from Illinois.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Governor Walz, you've seen firsthand the brutal excessive force used by ICE and CBP agents in Minnesota. Unfortunately, we saw the same tactics employed in Chicago during Operation Midway Blitz. I want to turn now to ICE and CBP's horrific pattern of abuse. Secretary Noem went to our cities ostensibly under the guise of arresting, quote, the worst of the worst. But in Illinois, less than 3% of those arrested during Operation Midway Blitz had criminal histories. In Minnesota, the vast majority of those detained had never been in trouble with the law, correct?
I believe that's correct, Congressman.
There were also more than 170 cases this year where ICE and CBP...
They came in here illegally. They broke the law. If they came in here illegally, they broke federal law. Are you talking about criminal history when it comes to killing people or all this other stuff? They came here illegally. They broke the law. I don't understand what's so hard for these people to understand about this.
CBP detained U.S. citizens. U.S. citizens should never be detained by ICE, correct?
That is correct.
According
I would
to
hope we all could agree on that.
Well, I hope so too. According to the Chicago Sun-Times, federal agents have pepper sprayed children, including this 1-year-old baby in Chicago. And children
That's
should
crazy.
never be pepper sprayed, right?
I would hope we could all agree on that too. They should not.
And according to The Independent, CBP agents dragged a 67-year-old U.S. citizen out of his car, breaking his ribs and causing internal bleeding. No person should be subjected to that kind of treatment, right?
They should not, Congressman.
Attorney General Ellison, let me turn to another topic. In President Trump's second term, ICE has become America's highest funded federal law enforcement agency with a budget of more than $85 billion. If ICE were an army, this budget would make it the 13th largest army in the world. Let's look at where that money has gone. Last year, DHS spent $172 million on 2 private luxury jets for Secretary Noem. I assume you're not aware of a stop payment on that particular payment, right?
No, I'm not, sir.
Republican Senator John Kennedy yesterday grilled Secretary Noem about a $220 million ad campaign featuring her prominently, including on this horse in front of Mount Rushmore. Secretary Kennedy suggested this was wasteful spending, and I agree. I assume you'd agree with that as well, right?
I do.
This gross misuse of funds must end now, and Secretary Noem must be held accountable. Now,
Why don't you talk about Gavin Newsom? I agree. I don't think that picture is necessary at all, but why don't you talk about Gavin Newsom buying his mansion?
not tomorrow, not next week, now. Chicago was ground zero for Secretary Noem's overreach when she launched Operation Midway Blitz. Chicago media reported that ICE and CBP agents had pepper sprayed a 1-year-old baby, shot at a pastor, harassed seniors, tased U.S. citizens, and even killed a person. It's clear that Midway Blitz was never intended to make Chicago safer. In December, ICE and CBP began Operation Metro Surge in Minnesota. Over 3,000 agents were sent to one state. There were military-style raids at child care centers. Children kept home from school. Adults postponing medical care. In Minneapolis, Renee Good and Alex Preddy, both U.S. citizens, were fatally shot by federal officers. It's clear that Operation Metro Surge was never intended to make Minnesota safer. But this is not isolated to just Illinois and Minnesota. Inside detention centers across the country, the suffering continues. Detainees report physical and sexual abuse, medical neglect, and pressure to self-deport. On top of that brutality, Kristi Noem is misusing funds to buy herself private jets and enrich her associates. Kristi Noem is testifying in the House Judiciary Committee today, but she must come before this committee to explain the rampant corruption and waste within her agency. DHS is out of control. There is no congressional oversight. I was denied entrance to ICE facilities twice in Illinois. There's no accountability. Secretary Noem has still not appeared before this committee, nor has she responded in a substantive manner to more than 12 letters I've sent her. There are no consequences. Noem is still the leader of DHS despite regularly breaking the law and abusing her authority. Secretary Noem must answer for her wrongdoing. For Jaime, my State of the Union guest, who raises his little sister after his father was coerced into self-deportation. For Chicagoan Marimar Martinez, who was shot 5 times. For my constituent Evelyn, an 18-year-old U.S. citizen who was wrongfully detained by ICE. For Renee Good, Alex Preddy, and Silverio Villegas Gonzalez, and all the other victims of ICE and CBP. For the American people. It's for all those reasons that, Mr. Chairman, pursuant to Clause 2K6 of House Rule 11, I move to subpoena Kristi Noem to testify before the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. This is for every family impacted by Kristi Noem's terror campaign. They demand answers, and so do I.
A motion has been made. The committee will hold this motion in abeyance until the end of today's hearing. The committee will now proceed with today's hearing, and I want to remind everyone, I believe Kristi Noem's testifying in front of the Homeland Security Committee in the House today after testifying in the Senate yesterday. Chair, before I recognize Mr. Cloud, I believe Mr. Higgins has a UC.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record an interview from 2024, December 2024, the Minnesota Star Tribune with Governor Walz, noting the federal investigation into the Early Intensive Developmental and Behavioral Intervention Program, the EIDBI program serving autism patients since its first year of inception in 2017, growing from 1.7 million per year to over 400 million per year. Unanimous consent.
Yes, sir. Without objection, so ordered. Chair now recognizes Mr. Cloud from Texas.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for holding this hearing. This hearing was designed to be a hearing looking into the massive expansion of some of the social programs and the fraud that was contained therein. But Reverend Tolgard, I was struck by part of your opening statement because you invoked Matthew 25, and that's a scripture we see tossed around a lot up here, but often without context. And so I went and got my Bible and thought we'd dig into Matthew 25 for a minute. The scripture you invoked was Matthew 25, 35 through 40. It ends with this. It says, "Then the righteous will answer to him, Lord, when did we see you hungry, feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? And when did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or naked and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and come to you?" And the king will answer to them, "Truly I say to you, to the extent that you did to one of those brothers of mine, even the least of them, you did this to me." I would ask you, who's the you in that passage?
Thank you for your question. You, meaning all of us, the followers of Christ.
Followers of Christ, right. In Matthew 24:3, it says, after Jesus was sitting on the Mountain of Olives and the disciples came to him privately, and then they asked him, that began this whole chapter. Now, what Christ didn't say was to lobby your government. He said, if you have, you give. That's the general biblical principle here. 2 Corinthians chapter 9 gives us probably the best scriptural understanding of what charity is. It says, each of you should give what you've decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly, under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. Would you say that taxes are under compulsion?
No.
Taxes are not my area of expertise, but
But are they given under compulsion? Do
No.
you pay your
Fuck that girl's. Some people are just. Yeah.
taxes?
as a U.S. citizen, I pay my taxes.
Yes,
as we all
because
do.
what happens if you don't?
We don't have the services that we need to support our,
What happens to you personally if you don't pay your taxes?
you get in trouble.
You get in trouble. I would say that's under compulsion. So if we're talking about what charity is, I'm always amazed in DC how much of we get to define our personal worth as a politician or statesman or whatever you want to call us by how much of other people's money we give away. And so there's certainly a place for a social.
Me too, Sea Dog. Me too, because it feels like feels like people are just trying to bring in other religions and get rid of the Bible. I'm gonna get off here in a couple minutes, y'all.
Safety net potentially, but the idea that Matthew 25 is kind of used as a blanket statement. As a matter of fact, the parable that he gives right before that scripture that you go into is the parable of the talents, where you see someone, a business owner, go away and he leaves 3 employees in charge and gives them each a bit of investment. And 2 of them turn their investment into a profit, and one that turns it not into a profit, he does nothing with it, just sits on it. What does he call him? You're a pastor, right?
Yes, I am, sir. I don't have
He
that.
calls him a wicked and a lazy servant. And so, scripture.
Dude, Minnesota's own pastor, whatever, whoever this woman is, can't even recite scripture. That's crazy. It's nice to see this guy give her a little bit of a schooling situation here, a little bit of education.
Scripturally speaking, God expects us to do something with what he's given us. Now, Romans 13 talks about the purpose of government. Scripture is replete with, there's different institutions that each have a different thing. The primary job of raising our kids and taking care of our families and the institution of the family. The government has a different one. It says, for the one in the authority is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid. For the rulers do not bear the sword for no reason. They are God's servants to bring agent of wrath on the wrongdoer. Would you say that someone who commits fraud is doing wrong?
We all are against fraud.
Right. Is fraud theft? Would you agree that that's theft?
Yes.
As the 8th commandment says, thou shalt not steal. Would you recommend that someone in your church go into debt to give an offering in your church?
No.
Okay, so we have a massive program of fraud that's being paid for by taxpayers, and it's not really us paying it, it's really our kids and our grandkids that are paying it. And yet we continue to see this massive expansion, all under the taken out of context of what charity is being defined as. It's interesting, I find it odd that the left continues to bring up Matthew 25, because at the very beginning of that, right before he goes in that scripture that we talked with, it says, Matthew 25:32, all the nations will be gathered to him, and he will separate.
Yeah, no, Sea Dog, I understand, and me too. I mean, it's a very hard book to remember and recite. But if you're a reverend, especially to the level of being before the house right now, how are you not able to understand what he's trying to allude to? So to me, it's just like, if you're gonna be at that position of power and you're gonna be up there, you best at least know what he's saying. I really want to look up this woman and see who she is, because I don't think she should be in her position at all.
Separate the people from one another as sheep and goats. He will put the sheep on his right and his goats on the left. And the king will say to those on his right, come in, you are blessed of the Father, take your inheritance to the kingdom. And those on his left, he will say, depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. So I would caution those who begin to use Matthew 25 to do so in the proper context, understanding that we have multiple biblical institutions and they each have a purpose.
The context here is vast.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to submit the entirety of Matthew 25 into the record.
Without objection.
Yeah, well, people suffer more in Minnesota. She just tried to say the problem is suffering. The people are suffering more in Minnesota when you're letting their tax dollars go fraudulently to these places that are obviously a scam. I mean, Leering Center, really, let alone the fact, like I said earlier, it is not hard to prove or give information on children you are going to be having come to your daycare. Okay. And when you have a daycare that lists 133 children, just as a number, doesn't list actual children, and you go there and it doesn't have any proof of, some sort of occupancy, or you can't give any sort of information about these children, and they're getting millions of dollars, that is also making those people suffer. Suffering is not just homelessness. Suffering is not just having medical bills. Suffering is also being scammed, is also having your government not do their job and taking your money away, causing higher tax bracket, whatever. suffering is not just being homeless and starving. Suffering is from all corners of the situation here. Okay? You're taking money out of people's like paychecks to what? To give it to these people who come here and then therefore give it back to their home countries. Yeah, I think that's suffering as well, right?
Mr. Chairman, I also have a unanimous consent item.
Without object, does anyone object to?
Thank you. It's a
Whoa,
Huffington
whoa,
Post
I hadn't
article.
recognized you yet, Mr. Does anybody object to Mr. Cloud? Without objection, so ordered. Now I'll recognize Ms. Randall.
Thank you, Mr. Comer. I'd like to enter into the record an article from the Huffington Post yesterday. Troops being told Trump's been anointed by Jesus to cause Armageddon in Iran.
Without objection, so ordered.
Why is this woman just coming in and being like saying random shit throughout this situation here? Wow. She's like bringing up random news articles and shit. Like she's not even doing anything.
Well, we do want it. Let's recognize Mr. Connor, then I'll get Mr. Waukesha. Mr. Connor from California.
Appreciate you, C-Dog. Much love. Make sure you guys like the video. Today's a little bit of a different format with us so we can clip it up and get some better content out there all around in other areas of the channel. So appreciate you for being here. God bless. I'm gonna get off here in a couple minutes. I gotta let my PC charge. I'm gonna get some other videos made and edited and out. So make sure you guys pay attention for those as well.
California.
I want to get to the point where I can have a video a day, or at least a couple videos a day throughout the week, while I'm also simultaneously streaming. So I gotta take advantage of being partnered with YouTube and all this other stuff. I mean, just waiting for super chats and all that stuff isn't lucrative enough, and I need to get it. I need to get my grind going even more. So
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Governor Walz, when I went to Minneapolis and was at Alex Preddy's memorial, I was struck that by the people there. I expected a lot of folks who were immigrants, and I expected or folks who were children of immigrants who looked brown like me. And there at the memorial were
Have a good day,
fourth
C-Dog.
and fifth generation Minnesotans, most of them white Americans, talking about how they faced tyranny, how when they go to church they were being followed by ICE agents. When they'd go to give a meal to an immigrant, they were being followed by agents. And I just had so much hope for our country seeing them there. And I want to thank Minnesota, as a Californian, as someone who grew up in Pennsylvania, as an American, for their character, for their courage, for what they have modeled in a multiracial democracy. And my question for you, I've been having served as a congressman, a governor, what is it about Minnesota that we can learn? What is it that leads to this kind of inclusive feeling about immigrants in our nation?
Well, thank you, Congressman, and thanks for your work on many fronts. Look, I think Reverend Tolgard summed it up in getting at the heart of this. It's about the neighborliness and the care. And left to our own devices, I'm going to make the case, Minnesota, and by the way, I would remind folks, states have to balance their budgets. We're AAA bond rated, one of the states that's ranked the highest. We have a surplus, and we also have the highest rainy day funds, one of the strongest protections. So we understand fiscal responsibility, but we also understand this caring, this neighborliness. People saw their neighbor. I believe our politics can change with that idea of what the next door neighbor looks like. Now, I will have to tell you, Mr. Khanna, I was deeply concerned last year when the Vice President of the United States mentioned he can understand why people wouldn't want to live by somebody who's not like them, which seems to go against our entire ethos in Minnesota, whether it was the first wave of Norwegian and Swedish immigrants that came to Minnesota, German immigrants like my family, or whether it was Hmong coming after the Vietnam War, or Somali and other East African immigrants to our country. And I think it's this sense
but they have to come here legally
of working together. There's a reason that we rank at the top in healthcare. We rank at the top in personal incomes. We rank near the top in home ownership. We rank near the top in happiness. Because this idea that we're all in it together and that we believe everybody should have a chance. So I think it's an ethos, and it gets into our politics. On the secular side, I believe as an elected official that I shouldn't give a sermon, but I should attempt.
Is this the Minnesota flag he has on his shirt, or is this the Somali flag? I just now noticed that.
to live one. And one of our politicians, Paul Wellstone, talked about we all do better when we all do better. And that's what we do. And I know that is true to a certain degree in other states, but I see folks making the claim that, well, you wouldn't have any fraud if you just cut all these programs, if you just zeroed them out. That is true. If we did not provide food for our children, no one would steal from that program. But there would also be a lot of hungry children. And what I'm asking for and acknowledging the accountability, we need to put program integrity in. So I think it's a neighborliness. I think it's a historical point about caring for your own. And I think it's a clear understanding that if your neighbor does better, you're going to do better.
Well, thank you, Governor. And obviously, fraud matters.
All right, I gotta get off y'all, but I agree with that somewhat, but I also like my neighbor over here could be making a fucking $1 billion. How is that gonna make me make more money? You know, how is that gonna make me any better? You know, we live in a country where, yeah, that's an awesome. It sounds good. It sounds good, but there's such a division. Like, you have to have assimilation. You can't just have these people come into the country, take this money, or flood in areas, and then all of a sudden it just becomes a Somali majority area, or it becomes a Viet Cong majority area, whatever race, it doesn't matter. It doesn't just have to be Somali, but it's about simulation. It's about it's about assimilation and all that shit. But it's like, if my neighbor's making $1 million, I'm not gonna be like it don't affect me. But the idea of working together, giving opportunities because we're in it together, it is, I agree with that. But the, you can't just be all willy-nilly on wanting to give away money and help people out to the point where you're basically allowing fraud to happen because and it's not that hard to stop it. You get an application for a daycare who's trying to be a daycare. They claim they're going to have 110 kids in it. Provide the information to the children. Provide their insurance. Provide this, that, and third, and get approved. But this paperwork that came out, they literally didn't have any kid information. They just stated they had 110 kids or 80 kids or 60 kids, and they were just getting approved. That's crazy. And I just feel like these House hearings, these Congress people or whatever, they're not hard enough on this guy. They're not hard enough on anybody. They need to be way harder. I was expecting someone to say you deserve to be like you need to do time for this. You know, I was fully expecting that, so I'm surprised that I didn't hear that. Like just because your neighbor's doing better doesn't mean you're going to do better. I agree with being in it together, but dude, it's not a like you're like it's not about just being in it together. It's about doing your damn job and making sure that things are right. It's an ecosystem. Everything has to flow properly. You can't just have one person over here doing good and expect the other person to do good because this one's doing good, then that one's doing good. No, just because my neighbor going to give me $1 billion or $1,000 if he's doing good? Most people don't think like that, especially Republicans and stuff. So I don't know. That's one thing I do agree with. I believe in community helping each other and all the other stuff, but there's got to be quality control with it. So it was really nice to see some of them cook him up there, but I just feel like sometimes these people who go before the House and they were doing some dumb shit, I feel like they don't get cooked enough. You know, they need to be cooked way worse. But anyways, I'm gonna get off and get some videos done today. Sorry, today was a bit of a shorter stream, but we went till noon. Did pretty good. But yeah, I gotta get some other videos done. I'm gonna let this laptop charge, and then I'm gonna get some stuff done. I want to at least have videos for the rest of the week. Hopefully, the sound is working properly on them this time. Because if it's not, I might have to be buying. I might need some super chats to buy another computer because I'm fucking bust this one. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, for sure. I appreciate everybody for being here, man. God bless you guys. Sorry, today's stream was a little bit different. I'm still gonna get in the. I'm trying to get into the habit or into the funk or into the what's it called? Into the I don't know. I'm just trying to get better at doing these kind of streams so I can get clips and so I don't have to work so much harder after certain streams. I'll still do the other streams some days, but I'm also going to do these streams some days. So God bless you guys. Make sure you look out for the videos that are going to be coming out. Make sure you guys show some love and support on them. And I'll see you later, okay? I love you guys. Thank you for being here.